Thank you.
I'm just saying, parent of an Eagle Scout.
There you go.
And married to an Eagle
A
Scout.
lot of connection.
Brothers who are Eagle Scouts.
I mean, you look fine, but this is the new standard.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm so excited.
Three brothers were all Boy Scouts. I wasn't.
I'm sorry, how are yours?
Did you not want to do it, or are you the youngest?
Third of them.
Third, okay.
The truth is, I was in so many other things,
Yeah.
but the story I tell my mom to make her feel guilty is like, yeah, the other three were.
And you just so lucky.
Yeah.
You deprived me of that opportunity.
It was all done. Yeah, there was no comparison.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you. Jason, or Jeremy?
Yes.
It says
Log on.
visit your name, but I don't know.
Hey, if we get a cup, do you want some of the yogurt? It's a bite. It's that like yogurt stuff you like. Do you want some of that?
No, I'm okay.
Are you sure? Yeah, thank you.
It's better now.
What?
There's literally everything I wanted to give you.
I know.
But it's better now.
Stuff that's in it, like, it's, I didn't make the cutoff for a couple of days.
Trying to decide if you're going to or not.
No, because she was pretty much new because she, her back leg stuff, had like her stuff shut down and stuff, but it wasn't physical, it was neurological. And then she fell and she sprained her front. So she basically was a one-legged dog. And so she's still asleep, but she had a good day. It was at home. Yeah. Weird. Thank God it was a really
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God. What did you get, kebab?
I did get kebab. Brown for spices, so they like.
Weird having this.
Oh, okay.
I can make, like, I can zone and stuff, and this I just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have simply
Are you traveling like later in the summer?
Do you mind if we go
Yes.
Go ahead.
We came over, you got a trip from the 12th, didn't you?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
are you guys going?
Super hot. Japan. It's gonna be so hot. And also I'm going to
Japan's super hot.
Oh.
technically
4 months.
pregnant the next week, but not like over the safety line, I was like, it's fine.
So they'll let you fly.
They'll let me fly. So the airlines rule is 36 weeks. My doctor was like, try not to travel in your third trimester.
Yeah.
He was like, well, don't do it again. It's like, what about CSO?
I know when you said you were coming to that, I was like, I would have given a shit.
Yeah, well, my family's down there, my husband's family's down
So
there.
you're like, well, I have a baby down there, then I have a baby down there.
Exactly, so, and they're
Your
going to
insurance is
like,
okay down there?
yeah, and they're going to the Great Wolf Lodge in Johnson Season.
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna be down there while you're not.
Exactly.
They're going to the
That works
The
then.
Great Wolf Lodge, it's an indoor water park, it's an indoor water park.
So they're like hotels. Thank
Yeah, yeah.
So you can go year round, right? So like it's a hotel, and then there's also this water park. I've never been to it, but like a waterfront. And there's this water park inside the hotel. So we got lots of people. I've heard great things about it. You guys
Okay.
been to it before?
No, they like it.
You
Okay,
made
well,
it.
if your family's not a little plan like that,
That
I
was
totally
quite a
agree with
day.
that. But you just like a going, I was like, really? Why? Like, really?
Yeah, it will mean that Anthony's
I was like,
mom's there
take me
instead of my
to
mom being there, but I think that.
That's fine. Yeah. You've thought through all the important things. It sounds great. And then kind of a fun adventure.
Yeah.
Part of me like wants you to go labor while we're down there.
It's like, oh yeah. We have
Oh,
to-
wow.
we have to pause.
So,
Okay, 6:02, sorry. Technical problem. Hello, good evening. It's 6:02, and with that, we open tonight's board meeting for June 22nd. I see that everybody is in person, and Nancy, Trustee Nancy is online. Hello. Let's start on call. So if everybody please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And with that, we move to the. Yes, well, I don't have the, can we do the translation first?
Oh, that's right.
Script today. Sorry, we're gonna start with, today's meeting is translated, and please the translator make the introduction. Thank you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good evening. The Zoom interpretation feature will be used in the Zoom meeting for English and Spanish support. All participants on this call must select their language of preference by clicking the language when the host turns on the interpretation feature. This is found in the world icon located on your feature panel. Interpretation for this meeting will be conducted simultaneously. Thank you for your attention and collaboration. Buenas noches a todos. Se utilizará la función de interpretación de Zoom para soporte en inglés y español. Todos los participantes de esta llamada deben seleccionar su idioma de preferencia haciendo clic en el idioma correspondiente cuando el anfitrión active la función de interpretación. Dicha función se encuentra en el panel de herramientas en el icono del globo terráqueo. El modo de interpretación para esta reunión será el simultáneo. Gracias por su atención y colaboración.
Thank you. With that, now we are going to have a brief acknowledgement of land and life. Sunnyvale School District is located on the ancestral and unceded land of the Mi'kmaq Oglala tribe, and who have peacefully honored and cared for this land for thousands of years. We recognize that every member of the Sunnyvale community continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land. We acknowledge our responsibility to learn from the wisdom of the Oglala people and consider how we might work to repair injustices and to move forward together in honorable ways. Now we're moving to item 2 of the agenda, and with this, we need to approve the agenda and recommend that the board approve it. Do we have motion?
I move to approve the agenda.
Do we have second?
I'll second. Do you want to ask for public comment?
Yes, are there any public comments about the agenda? Anyone, this item is not public comment, it's about the approval of the agenda. Anyone here or online want to talk or have questions about it? Thank you. With that, everybody who wants to approve the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, with that, we approve the agenda for tonight, and now we move to public comments on closed. Do we have closed session? No. We
Study session.
We have a study session tonight. Okay. And tonight we have first a study session on the home to school transportation progress report. And for that, I would imagine we have Brad Burns, our Director of Facilities and Operation.
All right, good evening, board members, good evening, cabinet, good evening, members of the public. Tonight we're here to review and discuss the home to school transportation progress report. So there's no presentation tonight. We will just review the progress report that was sent over to the board members last week. I have 2 corrections and clarifications in regards to the report. The first is there are 8 large buses in our district fleet, not 10. We have bus 10, but not 10 buses. That was my mistake. And then the response rate is actually 60% of all families contacted, not 70. That figure did not include the additional priority 2 students that received registration numbers. So those all went out, that percentage response rate dropped a little bit. So those are the two corrections. And then due to the importance of this topic and how many people have been involved with it, I wanted to take a couple minutes of everybody's time and acknowledge the people that have played a part. Now, there's always the risk of me overlooking or forgetting an individual. So if I do that, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. And these people are listed in no particular order, but I do want to let the board know just how many people are involved in this process. So first, I would like to thank and acknowledge Denise Walker, who's our lead transportation driver for Sunnyvale School District, as well as Jeff Engel, who's our operations manager. They have sat in countless meetings throughout this process, kind of evaluating, reviewing, and analyzing how just we're going to roll this out so it's successful. I want to thank every one of the drivers from Nikki, Barb, Lydia, and Tam. I want to thank Dion Childs, who's our district mechanic, whom I'm not sure if you've all met, but he has been integral in receiving quotes for these buses and making sure that we're taking the right approach to EV and CNG moving forward for our district. I want to thank Elvia Gutierrez, who's in student data systems technician. She has been one of the biggest players in regards to the permission click registrations that have gone out to all the families, as well as analyzing the student information coming in from all of those registrations. Vanessa Escobar as well has played an integral role in looking at the students that are registered, as well as attendance and enrollment for next year, projecting out just how many buses we're going to need in specific areas, more directed to overflows and making sure that we account for that next year. Diana Hernandez, who is assessment data and student info, she actually assigns all the bus passes for summer school. She has been a great sounding board for me as we're trying to figure out just how to distribute and the information to include on all the bus passes that are going to go out for general ed regular school year transportation. And then every single member of the Admin 1 and Admin 2 teams across our district, they have had to reach out to every parent that has a student that qualifies for registration for transportation. And they have had to roll with quite a lot of communication coming from myself. So they all deserve acknowledgement. Also want to thank Aaliyah Wilson for helping on every single item of communication that has gone out throughout this whole process. And I promise you I'm almost done. And then just as a blanket statement to our community, the feedback, the emails, the calls, the presence at the board meetings, that has all been received by me and everybody that's played a role. We understand the importance and the impact that this potentially has on a lot of our students. We take it very seriously. And if it weren't for their feedback and input, we wouldn't be where we are currently. So just want to acknowledge and thank all of them. It's not everybody, I promise, but it's the ones that are on the list. And I'll stop there. Okay, so in regards to the home to school progress report, I want to go over some of the milestones listed in that report for the board members and the members of the public to hear. We've sent out multiple messages to families to try to make sure that everybody is aware of our change in home to school transportation. And I say change because there wasn't really a clear definition of what we were doing for home to school transportation. So initial messages went out in March 16th to every family across the district, letting them know of the changes that are going to be coming for the registration process for transportation. March 24th, registration emails were sent out to the families in priority 1. Those are all the families that qualify for transportation based off safety zones. We have 9 safety zones across our district, set forth in our board policy 3541. May 8th, message to families, update on registration status and moving towards priority 2 evaluations and registration. That was a critical one because on May 18th, we were able to open priority 2 registration for select families, primarily in the Vargas Ellis attendance areas, targeted specifically at Sunnyvale Middle School students due to the proximity to the campus, as well as existing bus stops and the availability on those buses in those routes. And then June 2nd, second round of priority 2 registration sent to all families in the Ellis area west of Fair Oaks Avenue, right around that general neighborhood. Those are the milestone communication items. Metrics and data. There were a lot of good questions from the board in regards to metrics. So I want to start by saying safety priority 1 areas, there's 646 students that qualify based off safety areas alone. That number, I believe, was reported in September of last year to be 800. That number included 8th grade students at that time. So we took all the 8th graders out because they will know they won't need transportation to any of our schools next year. In total, we've contacted 852 families at this point in time. That includes priority 2 students from the SMS and Ellis attendance boundaries. Of those 226, of those students that I just mentioned, 226 identify themselves as Hispanic. Of those students, 464 are middle school students, with 213 being Columbia students, 251 being Sunnyvale Middle School students. And again, we have a response rate of 60% with over 400 yes responses for home to school transportation next year. Currently, we are working with School Vision. They are a demographer. They have a software program that we've kind of designed cool implementation tools with it. One of them being a success for the district is the ability to type in your address into the school finder, and it'll tell you if you qualify for transportation based off the safety area. He is also overlaying different tools onto a map that allows us to view all of the yes responses across the district. What that does is allow us to start loading specific bus stops and routes. So we're really starting to plan. That's what we're at right now. That's the process where we're at. And we're looking to finish that by the end of this month. So that is by the end of next week. After that process is complete, we will know definitively how we can open up, or if we can open up more registration slots on our buses. And with that, that kind of recaps the home to school transportation report. At this time, I wanted to open it up to the board for any questions, clarifications, or further information that you might want from me.
Okay, if you have a clarification, you can ask it now, but if you have further comments, it's after the public comments. Any clarifications? Okay. Are there any public comments on these items in the report today? If you are online, please raise your hand. I think we have at least Peggy. Who else? One? Okay. Go ahead.
Peggy Brewster.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, Brent, and to everybody you just listed for all this work. I know that it's been a lot of outreach, and we really appreciate that you were taking this initiative to think about the needs of the students. I think everything's looking great. I really appreciate that we do not have to cut service from Sunnyvale in order to provide for the Columbia students. One thing that I still have wondering about is if there is any consideration for that after school extracurricular bus. I do think it would be really great if the district could help close those opportunity gaps by giving those kids also an opportunity to participate in extracurriculars, which are also such a big part of middle school life. And that's all. Thank you so much for all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. No more comments? Okay. So, board, we can start with our comments now. Any questions to start? Nancy, go ahead.
Yes, I appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and transportation has always been a challenge and I appreciate the measured approach that we're taking. It is one of the items historically that has been looked to for withdrawing funds at times when there are downturns in our budget year cycle, and when the state retracts monies that we would be given. So I appreciate the thoughtful, measured approach that we're doing, because we want to have things that are sustainable long-term rather than short-term exciting initiatives that will not be able to yield the maximum amount of results long-term. Having said that, I'm wondering if we're thinking about a process. You had mentioned that you're surveying and seeing how many of those who are currently identified and eligible will be participating. and that there might be an opportunity for opening up more slots if the total amount of capacity that you initially are planning for is not actualized by the potential participants. When will we know? And have we had any thought about what process that might take from an equity perspective to have additional students come on board?
I can respond to that, right? I got
Yeah.
it. Okay, all right. So yes, there's been additional thoughts. So the first question was when. So we are, by the end of next week, we are planning to have all of the loading done, meaning that we will be able to tell the remaining capacity on the bus routes that we have. In regards to rolling that out to the next tier of priority 2 students, we would continue with the same approach that we've taken so far, which is identifying existing routes and existing stops, trying to maximize that with the next round of priority 2 registration, meaning that there are students that qualify based off walking distance alone that live in close proximity to existing bus stops. The reason why we're targeting those families specifically right now is because we know that we can accommodate that with the existing route times. One thing that I neglected to mention in that presentation and summary was included in the progress report, but is that we are currently evaluating adding bus stops. There's a lot of students across the district that qualify for home to school transportation based off of priority 2 that do not live anywhere near a existing bus stop, just because our existing bus stops have been primarily around safety areas. So we are in the process of evaluating. That is something that our team is taking on, as well as CHP coming out to review the sites. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Okay, Bridget?
Okay, so you said that the existing, in the packet review comments, you said that the existing riders were not surveyed. So some of the existing riders were the people who came to the meeting. And I also asked a question about like whether or not they have been had a response. And I think the response was, well, we sent out the general information. Is there any way, I think you're gonna try to, by this meeting, have a better understanding of how many of them were accommodated or how many of them, because you said it's possible that they might not be eligible at all. Did that happen or?
So I will say that it's inconclusive, and the only reason I say that, and I know that's not a real answer to the question, but on that list of students that signed the petition, many of the students, and I don't have a number for you, were at residences that do not qualify based off safety areas and or qualify based off the priority 2 registrations that we sent out. The second was there were a couple illegible signatures. There was also signatures of parents that have students that are like TK to 4th grade that wouldn't be like the SMS impacted students, nor would they qualify for transportation because they don't live in a safety area. So I don't have specific numbers, and of the list of signatures that was given to the board and Dr. Gallagher and myself, I can give you exact numbers, but we did go through the whole list and checked addresses and students. And
Some people might have just been supporting it.
Exactly.
But not been on service, but there were quite a few people who were currently utilizing the bus. And so I'm just, like the ones who were speaking at the meeting and stuff, we don't know about them or?
So Bridget, is your
I'm
main,
just-
I just want to clarify, is your main concern like students who are currently in the Vargas boundaries who came, who are getting a bus to SMS, will they keep getting a bus? Is that what you're asking?
Vargas and Ellis, the kids who were at SMS, because most of the people who were present that night were SMS families, right? And I know you said, well, we weren't aware of who was riding the bus before because we didn't track them, like we're planning to keep track of people now, but we actually had them all on our buses. So like when I read that we handed it out in people's backpacks the last day of school as kind of like a last ditch effort to like reach people. You know, I mean, they're not riding the bus today, so we can't ask them today. So I'm just, because we had a whole list of students and families who said they were very concerned, I'm just wondering how that played out, if they were actually accommodated or not. And you're saying you're not sure yet.
I couldn't tell you specifically. I can tell you that many names listed on that, many names listed have been sent registration emails. The ones that we started expanding priority 2 registration to, multiple names on that list popped up when I keyword searched the students that have been contacted.
Okay, thanks.
And, okay,
Okay, I get it. So then, another thing was, you know, about the after-school programs. I got a little concerned because later we're gonna talk about the LCAT. And, I understand that the Lakewood tutorial bus, the tutorial transportation those buses are now gonna be used for middle school rides. But for middle schoolers, it sounds like our long-term English learners they're looking for ways to extend time, and they're saying anyone who's below grade level or below not making progress, we're gonna be offering them after-school tutoring. And I know that a lot of the kids from the ELD 1 class, I don't know about the long-term English learners, but I know a lot of the kids from ELD 1 and ELD 2 are on those buses, they ride those buses. And I'm just concerned I just wanna understand like how we're gonna make this work. I understand that you wanna wait till school starts or till later to understand if you can just meet the home to school and the school to home transportation. Like, that's a completely rational decision. But I'm very concerned about the idea that we offer a student a tutorial after school, that just by accepting the tutorial, they're gonna be bumped from their bus service, right? So could we at least, if we're not sure if we're gonna have a late bus, my plea to the board is like, can we ask the district to consider at least allowing kids who are involved in middle school tutorials to be able to use the tutorials, even if they're on bus service, and not be bumped from the bus service?
So the idea of not getting kicked off because they're not using the afternoon because they figured out another ride home with the tutorial.
Because the tutorial is so important. And so I know that doesn't cover sports and after school activities, and I appreciate that you're looking at trying to get, you know, an additional driver. I appreciate that you're trying to look at ways to get that after school bus, which I think we would all love to see. But I'm just really hoping that we're not setting up a system where we can just say, well, we offered you an after school tutorial and you didn't take it. But our system says you can't take it. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think that's a really good concept to explore. We have to be clear what that implies. What it implies is that perhaps, we don't know yet because we haven't done all the data, but perhaps that would mean some kids who otherwise would get bus service would, in favor of the kids, and as I'm saying something like, yeah, that's a decision we might make, in favor of kids who are getting tutorial support after school. So that would be a choice that the board would be making about priorities. We're choosing to provide bus service for kids receiving after-school tutorial, let's say, or it might be some other definition, at the middle school, over some kids who might qualify, say, in priority area 2 because of distance, but they would be relatively close compared to the ones in priority 2 in the distance areas that didn't. Does that make sense? We don't have unlimited bus service, so we have to make priorities over who gets
I'm saying if they're already accepted into the bus program, and you're saying it could be the next kid in line that is getting declined and they would use both, that's what you're saying.
Right, that would
They would
be,
use morning
that's a
and
choice that we could make, but we need to make a conscious choice about that.
My super preference would be that we would have the after school, the late bus, so that students could
Right.
have that. I mean, what is the status on that right now? What is the current
Looking for bus
status?
driver, right?
Well, so and I'll say that, yes, we're currently looking for another bus driver, but that bus driver would not be designated for after-school offerings. That would be dedicated to increase the home-to-school transportation based off the board priorities. So your question was current status of after-school programs. It's something that we are going to evaluate as we go. Like it's a relatively simple question, like can we provide later transportation or not? But right now our bus drivers and their hours are specified so that they're transporting our students to and from school at arrival and dismissal. If we start, anyway, so that's.
I know. I guess just for me, I really feel like when you said it's 226 students identify as Hispanic from that are getting bus services, out of how many have signed up? You said you had 800 something responses. Is it out of 800?
Yes.
So it's like a quarter of the kids. Okay.
And does that include the no responses as well? The 800 is
Correct.
all positive?
800 is how many registration emails that we sent out
And how many of those were positive, or yes?
How
for
many kids we
transportation.
have?
How many-
How many kids sign up already for transportation?
Over 400. I want to say 411 as of today.
Okay, and how much space do we have?
How much?
How many kids in buses with 5 drivers? How many kids are we?
So that's the answer that we're going to give at the end of next week.
It's
So we're
slightly unknown because of the having to shuffle routes and where people are.
So
There's
it's
not any
it's slightly more than half of our kids are Hispanic or Latino on the buses. If it's 226.
No, a quarter. The 226 was out of 800. That was of the responses sent out, of the registrations sent out, 226 or 262. I'm getting that.
Okay.
But not of the
So
sign.
that's not how many are reported. Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is that, we're getting the info. I know that you're working out the bus, the homeschool transportation, and I'm super excited about it. I'm super excited that Lakewood and Fairwood are gonna finally get some assistance to get to Columbia Middle School. I'm super excited. We've gotten more buses, we're not gonna have to eliminate a bunch of service from SMS. So I think all of that's awesome. But we're also getting information about students' performance and students, basically how we're servicing the students academically. And we know that we have a huge number of students in our middle schools who are below or far below grade level. And so we're looking for extended time for them. And because I remember the kids from last year, because I volunteered in some of their classrooms before, I know that some of them are below grade level and would have been eligible for tutoring, would have been invited to tutoring. So this isn't like I want to, Bridget just wants to give out stuff to everybody. This isn't like a feelings sort of thing. This is just actually looking at the teaching and learning stuff that we want to do, offering extended time for the population that's probably on those buses. So that's why I keep asking about the possibility of arranging the schedules or doing something so that we could get more of that.
Yep.
That's just, I'm just letting you know, like, that's my hope.
For sure, and I'll say with confidence that topic comes up in almost every single meeting that we have surrounding home to school transportation.
Do you know out of the 411 kids that sign up, how many of those are Hispanic or underserved population?
We do. I don't have the number in front of me though. I can get it. I can report back to the board for it.
Okay. And another question. So we're gonna have 5 drivers busing people, and we have 400 kids. How many kids fit in one bus? Is that an idea if we fill the most?
Yep, so depends on the side, like the grade level, right? So TK through 4th grade, TK through 5th grade, we load buses at roughly 72 students a bus. And then for middle school, it's 54. 78 and 52, 78 and 54, excuse me.
Okay, doesn't sound good. And then one trip. like the buses don't come twice for the middle schoolers, like,
So-
I thought they
Yep,
like.
so,
drop the-
no, and I know where you're getting at. And that, this goes back to the whole routing and the planning thing. So one thing that has been awesome to work with Denise on, this is like, so I'm gonna smile right now because I actually like thoroughly enjoy these kind of like problems and like moving stuff around. So what we're trying to do currently is make it so that there is elementary school routes and middle school routes. So when you're not mingling with kids in two, then you're loading the buses to capacity with both age groups. So that's what we're currently doing right now. I'm just trying to separate the routes altogether. Elementary routes run before the middle school routes.
So that means that the bus is gonna do 2 routes in the morning, the same bus with the same driver,
Correct.
and then in the afternoon.
And then it's taking those routes and figuring out the stops and how many students we're gonna have getting on each stop, and then seeing how many more students we can open up registration to, and then continuing on that way.
Are we open, and I don't know if this is gonna freak out everybody, but are we open to separate the starting times if it's better for the bus drivers to do
Just
it?
thinking the same thing.
Like 10 minutes, someone 10 minutes earlier or later?
So
I'm sorry. Somebody's gonna
again, so
tomorrow in the street.
Your voice.
So yeah, so that is another, bell schedules is another topic that has come up multiple times throughout this whole process. Right now, the way the start times are across the district, we are comfortable with having 2 separate routes, elementary school and middle school. Now looking at changing things, we haven't gone to that level of detail. If we add 5 minutes or delay the start time 5 minutes at this side of the district, what does that do in regards to transportation? And I'll just stop there.
One more question about this prospective after school, middle school bus. So, in distant history, when there was a middle school bus for those 3 years that there was a middle school bus, that was just at one we only were running buses to SMS then, right? It was just the one bus, right?
To the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if, we're not talking about having all the buses going again at that time of day yet, right? Like we were talking about the middle school, like having them each have a bus because, middle school is that time where we're getting ready to send them off to high school and, we're trying to keep them engaged. And if they're far below grade level academically, maybe they could still be really interested in their athletic team, or they might get interested in robotics or something, right? So is there when you are thinking about, are you working with teaching and learning to prioritize, if you could get an extra bus or extra 2 buses for a late bus, would it be for middle school, or are you thinking that you would want to do it for everybody? What's your
So the teacher and learning question, we're not at that point to start prioritizing who. I can say that the after school busing has been the way we're talking about it has been aimed at middle schools.
Yeah.
Currently.
I have a few questions.
Is it a slight change
Is it a slight change?
of this specific topic?
No, this is yours.
Okay, well, no, I want to wrap it up. So it sounds like our 2 asks from the board based on Bridget's, I think we would agree on, is 1, the middle school long-term English learners, if they are currently on the buses and qualify for tutoring, we do not want them to lose their bus pass. And we just prioritize them because they are in our prioritization.
and
I
English
think-
learners?
I think we agree on
And
that.
newcomers, I think.
Yeah,
the
I think,
holidays.
I think we agree with that thing. And then I think the other ask would be, what would it take to get after school, the after school, right, whatever we call it. The delayed after school bus at each of the middle schools, what would it take? Financially, resources, whatever, what would it take to get that? So then I think later on we can make that decision hey, that's a lot, but we still want to prioritize it, or hey, that's a lot, let's hold off a little bit. So I think knowing kind of the details of what it takes. Yes, board, is that the kind of 2 asks?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Perfect.
I'm done, that was it.
Clear.
And the 400 kids are in tier 1 and 2,
Are
because you
in
send the tier 2 already. the tier
priority
two
1 and 2. Priority 1 and 2. The only students in priority 2 that have been contacted are on the report, there's a few maps I included. our students around our Sunnyvale Middle School students surrounding the Ellis area and around the
We're
Vargas
like
area.
extra far away.
Yes,
Not like
extra
kind
far,
of far away.
extra far away and around existing stops and or routes.
Okay, yeah, got it.
All right, I'm gonna try to remember everything I have because I have like a few things. I'm curious if in creating next year when you're creating new bus stops, you can work with the schools and maybe see if there's an obvious geographic location where kids who might be chronically absent or late or chronically performing below grade level might benefit from a new bus stop. I'm curious to know, especially with the buses being more full, if there's going to be, so personally, some of my son's most difficult experiences in school have been on the bus because there are so many children on there and there's one adult. It's not like she can just stop the bus and pull over on the side of the road and make them stop being mean to each other. And I feel like, especially with the buses so full, that we're going to be needing to establish norms in that manner, and what your plans, I don't know if it's you or Paul, but what we're going to be doing about that. I also am somewhat concerned about the winter season. I know no one looks forward to a COVID wave, but if we can pre-establish some norms for that, like have a plan in place, like either more buses to separate the students more, requiring masks, just putting it on people's radar so that we can start thinking about that. And then I had something else, but those are, I think I gave you a lot right now.
Yeah, and I'll do my best to respond to each one of them. The first one, working with schools in regards to like specific geographical locations where there's chronic absenteeism or tardies or performance issues. So that would be a deviation away from the board policy. Right now, and I'm gonna get excited about this next part because I'm gonna go back to the map and the software and it's really cool to work with. But so we plot everything out, and so what we're doing is when we're looking at an overview of a campus with students that qualify for priority 2, we're trying to put bus stops around those clusters that we know are like relatively short walking distances. But those aren't determined by anything that has to do with absenteeism or performance issues. I'll leave it there. So that's how we'd be establishing new bus stops, not on tardiness or absenteeism, but that is a metric that we are looking to track of the students that we're going to start transporting.
And maybe once there are bus stops, maybe the principals, if that's published, the principals and the teachers can say, hey, look, you qualify, and you're right there, and it's another resource for them.
The second question, norms and what is the plan? It was a great question, and one that we have given thought to, and we have worked with Paul. Denise, myself, Jeff, and Paul all sat in a room for about an hour to figure out how we're going to start enforcing bus expectations, rules, and then any sort of disciplinary action that needs to come down. Because yes, you're right, like these buses are going to be full. There's a high probability, if not a certainty, that there are going to be issues on the buses. So we have framework in place on how we're going to deal with that. And it is going to roll through student services and Paul for a lot of the communication with the families in regards to disciplinary actions. And our team, Denise, Jeff, and myself will have overview of what's happening. I
understand that must be difficult because I think right now the procedure is that you get a warning from the bus driver and then eventually you get written up and eventually you lose your transportation.
Correct.
But I don't think anyone actually really wants kids to lose their transportation if that's the only way they can get to school.
Yeah, of course not. And that's, of course not. Any sort of like permanent expulsion from the bus is made with like a lot of thought on it. But we also don't want to continue to put the driver or the rest of the students in jeopardy if it becomes a reoccurring safety issue. That getting to that point would be difficult. We went through and revamped our whole transportation safety plan in our student handbook, making sure that everything's in line and we all agree with everything. And I say all this, there's going to be a learning curve for our team. Like we're going to have a whole bunch of variables that get brought up and that we're going to have to address and learn from. But we're doing our best to make sure we're ahead of most of it. Last one, COVID plans, illness, and some sort of plan in place. Something that we have not talked about or discussed, but something that we can.
And also very selfishly, my son takes the bus and he doesn't take the bus every day, but my husband can't drive. And so if I'm not there, he doesn't have an easy way to get to school unless they walk, and it's, a little bit more than a mile. They're actually walking home from baseball practice now, so it's not like it's completely undoable, but it's I personally would really appreciate flexibility if we can do that, because I feel like there's a lot of parents who are in that situation. And I know that, at least anecdotally with my neighbors, that our bus stop is a lot more utilized in the afternoon than in the morning. And I know that you guys know that and are talking about it, but I just want to reiterate that point and make sure that that's communicated out to the parents, because they might have to change the way that they use the bus or their kids use the bus in order to maintain transportation for the year.
The last part for clarification, do you mean communicate to parents, making sure that they understand that students have to ride AM and PM?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Nancy, do you have another question, or is the same raised hand from before?
No, this is a new point based on the conversation. I think it's important not just for our students who are going to be riding the bus, but I think bus etiquette and use of public transportation has relevance for all of our students. And I'm hoping that we look at our curriculum and see what Safe Routes to Schools has to offer already, that's already in place, that we can be reinforcing appropriate behaviors on public transportation. Because as it's normed throughout the community, it's going to be easier for everyone to understand and be supportive of the behaviors wherever they occur.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, I grew up in a rural area with buses, and our bus driver was super nice, but we were all like terrified of her because like we could not misbehave. Like you could just not misbehave. And but we had like those lower, like now the bus seats are actually quite high, right? So I can imagine it'd be very hard, even with the cool mirrors, to like see what's going on all the way back, because it protects their little necks, right? So but I mean, I really feel for the bus drivers. I just think they just do a great job, and the kids, really do love them, like, and appreciate them. But I just, I am a little worried about the packing them in. So, thank you for doing all that.
Yeah, and I will reiterate what you said, can't say enough about what our bus drivers do for our students every day.
Yeah.
Kind of
Very important.
And then just so the board is aware that our bus drivers do go through training on how to manage students on the bus. That is something that we have worked with, and so it's just a piece. I'm not saying that's perfect because it's not, but it is a piece. So they have student management trainings with our bus trainer.
And this is just for the board. I'm wondering if the families that were on that letter didn't get a letter from the district, because we were copied on it, would it be appropriate for Isabel to somehow close the loop, work with the district and just close the loop, the communication loops with them? Does that sound reasonable?
We have enough today.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I would be more comfortable with that, because I know the communication went out, but I feel like, they thought they were also copying us.
Yes. Okay. But you sent them a special letter, or they were part of the general communication?
Well, the general communication addressed all the issues that they brought up. I mean, we wrote the letter
Based on their.
based on them. And then we thought we're not gonna send it just to them, we're gonna send it to everyone. So it isn't it wasn't the opposite of that, but it's, yeah, so we would write another, it would have to be general in the sense that it would be, thank you for coming to the big board meeting. It can't be specific to everyone's case because there's 120 cases.
Right, but just to respond to the overall thing, so they didn't get a letter though, yeah. They got the general communication with everybody else, or they did get a letter.
Not a
Right,
specific.
the letter everyone else got was based on their input.
Answering
So-
their questions.
Right.
They didn't get a
Okay,
separate
for
Right.
almost 6,000.
Yeah, so maybe it makes sense for the board, maybe the board. could say
Yeah,
something.
make sure that it's directed to them, and not in a mass letter. Maybe okay, that makes sense.
Thank you.
Well, any last comments or questions? No, from the board? Well, I just wanna say thank you to all the bus drivers, huh?
Sorry,
Oh, sorry.
I do have a question.
Yes,
It says that you didn't do a formal survey of the existing bus riders.
Correct.
Do you have like a count? Like, do you know how many? Not okay.
so we have rough estimations, but we did, since there's never been a registration process for our students on the bus during the regular school year, we don't have like a definitive number.
Okay, but you don't
And
have like a tally?
No, and that number kind of changes. I will say that our bus drivers have done that before.
Right,
But that number does change like almost on a day-to-day basis.
right. And so, but just based on that average, are we gonna have an overwhelming number of people compared to what we currently do?
But
I mean,
could you define overwhelming?
I mean, are we going to be able to handle, I mean, is it a lot more than, is next year's total a lot more than what we're currently at, and how much more?
So I can't say what we're currently at because we don't have it. So
It
So-
must fluctuate a lot.
yeah, so obviously the goal is to, yes, it's gonna be more than what we currently bus. At the middle school level, it'll be more than we currently bus, and that is because we've had, 4 buses in the Sunnyvale Middle School. Now we're gonna have 5 buses to both middle schools, so that in itself is an increase in the number of middle school students that we're transporting. When you get down to the elementary school level, so how much time? 11 minutes. I'll go in a little
Sorry.
down in the weeds for a second.
Yeah.
The reason why there's so many priority 2 students at the middle school level is because the attendance boundaries, right? There are a lot of elementary schools that have students that are residing in a safety area, right? So we have to transport them. They do not have a ton of students that qualify for transportation based off priority 2. So- Exactly, so you're having these buses go out there to the safety areas, pick up, X amount of kids, let's just say 15 to 20 kids. And now we're trying to figure out how to identify kids on that route somewhere to maximize the ridership of each bus. So that in itself is gonna increase the number of elementary school students, but that's the time consuming part of this whole thing. Is after we figure out what elementary school students are on the bus, it's figuring out how we can prioritize the next round of registrations for the elementary schools. So anyway, sorry, I was down in the weeds a little bit, but to answer your question, yes, the ultimate goal is yes, we will have more students on our buses. And I do not have a before and after student count, but just based on how we're approaching this, then that yes, we're gonna have more students.
Just anecdotally, I have been filling out a bus form for my son to take the bus. And in TK, his teacher gave him this little bus pass on a red yarn thing, and he ate the yarn and whatever, and it was fine. But I guess that's not every school does that, and not every school does that in the same way, so it's not standardized, but now it will be.
That's one of the things that I think we're all most excited about is the standardization of this whole process. Bus pass is gonna be a whole nother topic of conversation.
Not edible.
What?
Not edible.
Yeah, non-edible.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, but
TK is acceptable.
So and then real quick, I just want to go back to coming back to the board, we're looking for the EL after school exemption, as well as how much and what would it take to have the after school program for middle schools, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just have one final question I'd run earlier, but when you were mentioning that the 60%, so you're saying of the 800 people that you sent letters to say, hey, you qualify for bus, you're saying 60% of that 800 have responded with a yes or no?
Yeah, with a yes or no,
Okay.
correct.
So right, so Mike, I know you guys have done tons, but still at the end of the day, even if we've done tons, you have 100 kids, right, only 60 of them have responded. 40 kids who haven't responded, some of them are gonna be probably families who are privileged who don't need it and didn't bother to say, no, I don't need it. But a good chunk of them, which I'm sure you guys are aware, is probably the students who actually could use the bus the most. So I don't know what the answer is, but like 60%, that's barely above 50, right? Like it's better, but just that number, that's 40% of our students who we don't know, and a lot of them probably need the bus. I don't know what we do, but.
I don't have a real good answer to that either. I can tell you that there's gonna be a lot of communication and analyzing the first 2 weeks as we have a whole bunch of students potentially show up at bus stops that either didn't register or don't qualify. So yeah, but I don't have an answer on how to accommodate for the students that don't respond.
Yeah, so I guess that'd be my last ask is just, we try to brainstorm and figure out, you know, how, and maybe there's a way to figure out, hey, like which of those students are Hispanic and we prioritize, because that is a priority, so maybe it's of the students that responded, the ones who are Hispanic, let's put extra effort into reaching out to them or something. I don't know what it would look like, but.
Okay.
And I assume board would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, and then, yeah, and I will say that, you know, district staff has done, I believe, district staff has done a really good job of reaching out to everybody, you know, like via text, email, phone call.
Yeah, well, getting to 60% means a lot of work happened, because without that, you wouldn't have gotten that high of numbers. So yes, a lot of work got into 60%, but there's still 40%.
Yeah.
And have we used our outreach coordinators and outreach people to know exactly who may need it more than others?
Yeah, and so I don't have the number in front of me, but I'll say the middle school outreach coordinators played a really big role in reaching out to the families, because we provide each school site with the non-response list. Hey, these are the students that qualified that we sent registrations to that we have not heard a response from, and they would continue to call and try to get responses. So I don't have the response rate from the middle school specifically, but I will say that those lists got really small in regards to the unresponsive students from the middle school level.
Okay. And so you say that we do have 8 buses, not 10 as
Yeah, sorry.
4 of them are gas and 4 of them are electric.
CNG and electric, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And then you say before that you were trying to go for a grant, so the state will give us 1 or 2 buses, how many they can?
So the grant's actually not through the state, it's through the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. And it would be to replace 2 of our existing buses. We have 2 buses, numbers 9 and 10, that are older CNG buses. They're 23 years old at this point, that qualify for the grant program. And that was the one that we got approved from in the fall. And then they told us that we can't replace them with CNG. We can't go CNG to CNG anymore because people aren't making CNG buses. And so we have to go to electric, and that was a whole different application process.
Oh, okay, so there are no grants to have an extra bus, but we are okay with the ones that we have?
Not an extra bus. I will say that.
You just replace the old with the new?
Yes, and I will say that teaching and learning and Lori and Christina and Tasha, like they've all been in discussions in regards to procuring another bus through the ELOP funding. I think that's the correct acronym, is that right? Okay, sorry.
So it might be a possibility, but we don't know.
Yeah, and I do want to just real quick, so just so the board knows, the lead times on buses is like borderline crazy, you know, for
Yeah, you said it was like a year plus, right?
yeah. So like even if I walk down to a dealership with $550,000, they're not going to give me a bus for like 8 to 10 months. So just.
So we need to start asking for it right
I
now?
have questions about that.
Yeah.
Where's the dealership?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Getting the grant so we can ask for one, to see maybe in a couple of years we have them.
What's that?
I don't know, getting the process to see if we have them
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
sooner.
Yeah, and that goes back to my acknowledgement to Dion is, you know, he's actually actively going out and talking to dealerships that he knows and getting bus quotes for us to evaluate and see if they fall into the budget for the ELOP funding.
But if we find a 6 bus driver by any chance, we are okay for now.
We're okay for now, not how we would like to operate just because then you only have 2 spare buses, but we would be able to function.
And how about field trips? You mentioned earlier that if we have educational field trips that are longer during the morning, maybe the EV cannot be used, so that's why we like to have some gas, natural gas.
Correct.
Are the new ones gonna be better so we can have more mileage and take the kids to San Francisco? I mean, to
No,
take whatever, the exploratorium and back or something like that.
So are they better? They still, the ones that are included in the grant, or at least that have been quoted for the grant, are the same ones, the same range. Nothing better. From what I'm being told, they have extended batteries now on buses that can get you further, but those aren't the ones that were part of the grant opportunity,
Oh, okay, so.
at least not in our application.
So we're gonna be depending for, I mean, because sometimes they are, like, taking it to Walden West is kind of far, but those are special days to.
Yeah, and the Walden West trips are achievable with our EV buses. We actually, at the end of this school year, we actually did a whole bunch of Walden West trips with our EV buses, fully loaded.
Okay.
Can, at the end of, like, when this finally rolls out and things are calming down a little bit, just, you know, like, just to the regular level of excitement. I'm just wondering if, like, there will be, if you're thinking that there'll be like some sort of a, like, right now there's the lookup by safety zone area, like, will there be some sort of outline of the process, like, hey, you just moved here, or hey, your situation changed, how do you find out if you're qualified for, like, you see a bunch of kids standing near the bus stop, can your kid go there too, like, just kind of some frequently asked questions and like a streamlined process, so if someone moves into a safety zone, they know that they've how to contact and sign up and if there's room.
Great question, and yeah, something that we will look at doing for sure. I mean, that's should be achievable, no problem. That's a really good question.
What would be super cool is also like, not waiting for them to ask, but if somehow our system could pop up like, oh, this student just moved in, they're in this area, let's shoot off this automatic email or whatever.
Or the welcome packet, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, we noticed it, but I think like, yeah, I think it'd be important to have that.
For sure, and that should be, because now we have the safety areas on this interactive map with all the addresses and all our students, so. I don't know exactly how that would communicate. I know, that's why I was looking at him. This is Lord.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Boris, 6:59, are we done with this topic or you wish to extend special? Okay,
We're gonna get an update in the fall?
okay.
Yeah, so yeah, the update in the fall will be like, I would say like the October to November, like the first. I say this now, like the amount, the craziness that is gonna ensue in August, we're gonna need time to like analyze and unravel it all. So I would say like update in like October, November, when we have like our feet back on the ground for this whole thing.
But everything should start running the first day of class?
So, correct, yep, this is first day of school,
Okay.
we're rolling it out.
So it's gonna be smooth, there's not gonna be anything crazy.
I agree.
See,
I
she's
know.
got it all under control, not a single problem.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do when a bunch of kids show up at the bus stop and think they can ride the bus?
It's gonna be, so it's gonna be interesting.
Okay, so you're gonna flyer, are you gonna flyer them?
I appreciate the
Like,
honesty.
parents and then-
No, so it's, I don't, am I allowed to just keep going? Is that?
You can talk until she tells you to
Yeah,
stop.
I mean.
Yeah, so we keep going, this stuff is really, like, it is really fun, so like, we've talked about that scenario and how we're gonna do it, right? So each bus, and this is way in the lead, so you can stop me whenever you want. Each bus driver, since we know how many students are on each stop, are gonna have a attendance list or registration log to check them all off. On the first couple of weeks, when we have students that are not on that list, because they don't qualify or didn't register, we take the names down, we give that list to the school site, and then they can do a little outreach on like, hey, you don't qualify, you're not gonna be able to get on the bus. In the event that there are more students on the route that we can accommodate, then it's like, okay, we gotta consider doing a loop for those first couple of weeks to get the students to school. Then that has to stop at some point because it's not sustainable.
If it's feasible, I think it would be a good idea to have a stack of flyers, like they have bilingual flyers with the bus driver that this kid can take and give home to parents. Because if you can't like reach them.
Do you hear what she said?
What?
Which is mostly true.
Take it home, that'd be.
Yeah, it'll be lost in the backpack, yeah, but maybe when they get off the bus.
Yeah.
But I know.
But yeah, so,
Or
so,
if there's a parent there.
Yeah, pin it, yeah, on red yard, yeah, perfect.
Don't shoot the guys.
Well, thank you for putting all this work and for the very important job of driving our kids safely around. Thank you.
Thanks for taking all our questions in stride, Brandon.
yeah.
Yes.
We throw a lot at you.
To be honest, like I prefer like the Q and A kind of style instead of me like just talking. I don't like hearing myself talk.
Well, you know, we're always happy to talk.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay,
Good.
Thank you.
so with that,
Thank you.
thank you very much. We move to the next item, which is comments. Yeah, comments from the board. Yes, comment from the board and superintendent. So we're gonna go down the line. Nancy?
Yes, I've been doing a lot of reading about school boards around the country and dealing with different public challenges based on policies around books and LGBTQ issues. It's been very challenging to read, and I'm very thankful that our community and our board has a shared mindset of thoughtful civility. I've also continued to finish up with the activities with the LAC with Santa Clara County, and I'm looking forward to taking a break from that and starting back up in August. And I'm happy to have some time to reconnect with folks here.
Okay, I sent in my limited board activities and things I just sent everything into Jesus and Mike. So that'll be in the minutes, but I just wanted to say that I've been doing a little research on student board members and student advisory groups. And I'm just really, it's pretty cool, some of the systems that other people have set up, but not really for middle schoolers. Not really for elementary school districts. They're almost all at the high school level. Like I haven't been able to really find many models for elementary school districts. And I know that our district has a student advisory group, like with the student council members. But one thing that I did notice when I was looking these things up is that the way the student advisory groups, it's different than student government that's elected by the students. It's actually the student advisory groups, even at the high school level, they still have their student council, but the student advisory group that advises the board on topics of the board's interests are typically around issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice issues, looking at things through an equity lens. And so a couple of the districts that I've looked at, they set up panels, students interview and apply for that separately than the other way. And it's just a different kind of selection process and forum. And so I don't know if that would be something that the board, I know we've been talking about student involvement. And I don't know if just the kind of advisory group that Mike has right now with student leaders already like at all the sites, but I thought for the middle schoolers, because I walked into a middle school staff room right before they were gonna have their school site council meeting. And these two middle school girls were like conferring, they seemed pretty mature. They seemed almost like adult board members, and they were like going through the agenda and talking about the comments that they wanted to make their comments on, and just point by point. And I thought, wow, they really have a lot of poise and maturity. And I thought, if there were a way, like maybe an ad hoc group of us could, meet with Mike and talk about maybe some ideas around student involvement for either next school year or we roll it into we take a year to develop it and then the following year, we roll it out. But I just thought there's opportunities there. It doesn't have to be someone sitting through a whole board meeting, but it could definitely be a very,
So is this something you'd like to
thoughtful student voice.
agendize?
So I'd like to agendize, I would like to agendize or see if there's interest in an ad hoc committee from the board, if there's interest in doing it, if people aren't interested in, or maybe it's a different kind of topic or.
So we can't discuss that
So
now.
probably a discussion item
So-
about creating an ad hoc.
Yeah, so we can add that.
Okay, that's what I wanted to bring up.
Yep.
In my convoluted way.
I'll
Thanks
put
for
it on.
listening.
I'll put it on the list.
Thank you.
I think at my second or third board meeting, I shared how my car broke down going over the grapevine. I got my car back. I'm so excited. It's in the parking lot. It has a brand new engine. It cost like $1 million, not literally, but almost. And I'm just so happy because I don't remember who I was talking to when I said this, but transportation is so important because I think we all learned during COVID that yeah, we can teach them if they're not at school, but nobody likes doing it that way. We need them to be at school to feed them, to teach them, to like teach them how to be people. And it's just so great. Transportation, personally for me, I have my car back and the district is getting our buses and I'm so excited for all of us. I was traveling this past couple weeks. I didn't do a lot of things. I have still been listening to and keeping track of the transportation issue at the high school level. There was recently a VTA meeting about modified bus routes for next year, and some members of Sunnyvale for Equity and Education were there to push the VTA organization into prioritizing student routes for the 55 and the 56 buses for getting those high school students from North Sunnyvale down to Fremont and Homestead. I heard there's concerns, of course, in that area as always, and I was really saddened to hear one of the other C members, they graduated this year and they had to make a difficult decision about whether they were going to walk across the stage or get a summer bus pass. And that's not a decision that anyone should have to make, to decide if they're going to go have that rite of passage of walking across a high school stage. It feels like a decision that it feels like a cutting the baby in half situation, and I hate that. And I don't want any of our students to have to be in that position as well if they have to decide if they need to go to tutoring or keep going to school. I am hopeful and confident that that's something that can be avoided in the future with continued advocacy and support, and with the what's that word that means working together? Working togetherness?
Collaboration.
Collaboration of the various partners in this. Thank you.
Yay for getting your car back. It's always fun to be at the middle school promotions, and it just is like great seeing their smiles like across the stage. It's just a fun thing to be a part of. And as most of you guys know, I just got back all last week. I took 100 teenage girls and 50 adult staff up into the mountains for a camp, and we all came back and everyone seemed to have a great time. So I'm recuperating from that. That's it.
Okay. Well, the last few weeks have been very, very busy. One of the many things was the events finishing middle school. Those were very cool. I went to the Columbia Middle School, well, it's not graduation, promotion. And it was, I mean, the kids were adorable and the speeches were great. We had speeches from the kids in English and Spanish. It was the first year we had Hontas kids graduating. And yeah, it was very impressive. And a lot of, you see the character of the kids and the personality shown in there when they walk through the stage, how they celebrate her, and the families were very excited. So it was beautiful, it was great to see kids in, this little rite of passage, and hopefully they'll be doing great in high school, and all of them will be finishing. Other than that, I went to the Hispanic Foundation had a big event that they haven't had since before the pandemic. They were expecting to do one in 2020, but it didn't happen. Which is the progress report card for how the systems are serving Hispanic community, as they are underserved by most of the systems around. In our field of education, they did pretty much terrible. It was a D. I think I shared with you guys the slide. If I haven't, I can send it to you. But yeah, I sent everybody the link, and it's online in the Hispanic community, and it's called the Latino Report Card. And it's not just for education, it's a full report card about how we're doing in finance, in home, in the only one that we didn't have a C or a D was on environment. Apparently, everybody is very up to keep the environment and help. And but other than that, it was terrible, and we're part of that. And they have the report from the state and the report from the Bay Area, and there were Dr. Luan, and there was also the superintendent from San Mateo County. And everything has gone down by a high percentage of how behind the Hispanic kids are. So it's just another reminder that we need to figure it out and try to do better every day and push hard and hard, so we don't have a bunch of kids in our community who are behind. Other than that, then we have the CLSBA conference now got their, wait, I remember the name, their latest speaker, the main featuring speaker. And we were going to have Dolores Huerta, but so far she has been sick and she's not sure if she's going to be making it. But we're going to have Silvia Mendez, so the American civil rights activist, Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient. So she will be there at the conference, and I'm glad that I think even we have a fourth. You say you were making it, or yeah? So four of us are going. And yes, I hope we are presenting too.
Me too.
Yes, I hope we are presenting them our plans and how something good that we have been doing in the district. We shall have good things to show. Other than that, last week I was taking our Back Is an Adventure back our troop of scouts. So I was taking a group of scouts down the Klamath River up to 4. We had 3 and 4 rafting trip. It was very intense. I was kids from all ages, under 18. And I was able to also do some kayaking down by myself, so that was very cool, very interesting. So we'll keep doing these kind of things, and everybody came back alive. So we have 14 kids alive making it back. Nobody got sick, or we got 3 people in the water, but they survived that. And yeah, I think that's the report. So I barely made it, so that's why I'm full Class A uniform. But yeah.
Okay, just a couple of updates. First of all, we're working on choosing a date for a board visit to summer school. It'll probably be, well, July 6th or 7th, somewhere around there. And so we'll have that date for you tomorrow, so it'll go out in the weekend update. Also about weekend updates, I think I put it in one of the last ones. They're not going to be coming out every week during the summer, so I'll have one tomorrow. I won't have one for at least a week after that because I'm going to be out of town. And then we'll just do them as appropriate. Regarding CLSBA, we did put in 2 proposals with the caveat that we only want to do one. So only pick one.
Pick one.
Yeah, even if they think they're both great, we hope that they just pick one, whichever one is more appropriate for them. We've been spending a lot of our time focusing on preparing for the new year. The all management retreat, the back to school assembly. We're coming up with some good ideas for a theme. We don't want to share them just yet. But really overall, the idea is that the last couple of years, COVID, recovering from COVID, laying groundwork, this is the year for results to make things happen and to really instill a sense of urgency about the work that we're doing. And in talking to the principals in my one-on-one meetings with principals at the end of the year, while they were expressed honestly that they were tired, they were also really excited and really verbalizing that same idea that they are ready for results for next year to make things happen and to really have a productive, positive year without excuses, without this is COVID, without we're recovering from COVID, but now we have the resources and the foundation laid to make things happen. So that was really exciting because that was coming from our principals and then the cabinet team. So with that, that's it.
Isabel, I forgot to say 2 things today. Okay, I forgot to say that next Thursday at 6:30 is the final event in the Sunnyvale Unity Series. It's going to be the second part of conflict de-escalation training. It's going to be at the community center. Yeah, it's gonna be at the senior center, the same place the last one was, and also on Zoom. And then I also wanted to personally, on a very personal note, thank Karen Garcia from Lakewood, who put a little bag of books together for my son to read for the week and told him that he could trade them in next Monday for a new bag of books. And I just think that was so kind of her, and thank you for it.
Thanks. Okay, so with that, we close item 4 and we go to item 5 on tonight's agenda, comments from the Sunnyvale Education Association. Do we have any member of the SEA online? Okay, with that we move to item 6, comments from the California School Employees Association. Any member of the CSEA who wants to speak, in person or online? Okay, thank you. So now we move to comments from the public. So in this portion of the agenda provides an opportunities for members of the public to directly address the governing board on any item of interest for the public. However, provisions of the Brown Act, Government Code 54954.28 and .3 preclude any action being taken on any item not appearing on the post agenda. Time limits located to public testimony are 3 minutes per person or 20 minutes for general public comments. If you have any comments, if you're here in person, please take a card and give it to our wonderful staff in the back. If you are online, you may raise your little electronic hand at the bottom of your Zoom. We'll get you. I don't have any cards here. Do we have any in the back or people online? Okay. We're not that interesting tonight. So, okay, we move on to presentations. So I suppose we go right to presentations. Nobody wants. Okay, perfect. And our presentation for the night is the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. And for that, we have Brent Burns, Director of Facilities and Operations. And probably another guest, so.
Yes, good evening again. Yes, tonight will be the annual review and summary of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, and I am pleased to introduce Doug Coons, who is the acting chair for our CBOC, and I will let him give his presentation.
Thank you. So good evening to the Board of Education. As mentioned, my name is Doug Coons, and I am the chair for the school district's Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. So this annual summary presents a comprehensive view of the projects that have been undertaken by the CBOC, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, for the school district during the 2022 to 2023 school year. Our CBOC does play a critical role in ensuring transparency and accountability in the expenditure of taxpayer funds for school infrastructure improvements. The review examines the key projects, their progress, and the impact on the district's facilities and educational environment. The CBOC was established to oversee the implementation of the district's bond measures. Its primary responsibility is to monitor the expenditures of taxpayer-approved bond funds and provide reports to the community. This report summarizes the projects that were undertaken by the CBOC during this past school year and assesses their outcomes. This year, there were many key projects undertaken by the district relating to our local bond measure GG. For those projects, the CBOC was updated on the scope, objectives, and expenditures for each initiative to ensure that the taxpayer dollars are being spent towards the projects spelled out in the bond language. These scopes include modernizing our school facilities, improving safety and security measures, and upgrading educational technology infrastructure. The specific project expenditures that the CBOC reviewed were the Ellis campus modernization, the preliminary expenditures for the upcoming summer projects at San Miguel, Fairwood, and Vargas, the school district's collaboration with PG&E for our EV charging infrastructure projects at Fairwood and Columbia Middle School, the start of the Sunnyvale Middle School two-story classroom project. I'm personally looking forward to seeing that one, amongst others. Ellis has been the largest bond expenditure this fiscal year, and per the district staff's updates, the project is continuing to make great progress. And that's a lot of moving parts with doing that while school's in session. Although the CBOC committee has not been able to conduct a meeting at Ellis Elementary yet, we do look forward to having our first meeting of the 2023 to 2024 school year on that campus. Looking forward to seeing it firsthand and hearing about it. District staff has shared presentations illustrating the project's progress throughout the year. In regard to the financial review of Measure GG and Measure BB for the 2021 to 22 fiscal year, the beginning balance for Measure GG was $30,171,238.90. The annual review for Measure BB was $1,110,211.26. We reviewed expenditure reports for each quarter at the two CBOC meetings this year and also heard the district's detailed descriptions for each. Due to a low committee member count and a couple of scheduling conflicts throughout the year, the CBOC did meet only 2 times this year, once on January 27th of this year and again on June 2nd. Both meetings were insightful and allowed for open discussion and conversation between our members and district staff. The committee looks forward to the district's concerted effort to add members to our committee going into next school year. The CBOC also does want to recognize and thank our newest member, Jose Leon. We look forward to his input and collaboration with the group going forward. In closing, the committee is satisfied that the parcel tax revenue and bond funds have been spent appropriately and in accordance with the requirements set forth under Prop 39 and the language associated with Measure BB parcel tax. The committee's points of contact in the district are Laurie Van Gogh and Brent Burns. Our committee would like to give a special thanks to Jeannie McKayan and Liz Chagoya for their help in the preparation of the reports distributed throughout the year. And with that, I can take any questions and probably turn over to Brent.
Thank you.
So first, I think we need comments from the public. We need to approve? No.
No, so
If the public have any questions on this particular issue, please raise your hand right now or give me a card if you're in person. Do we have anyone online? Okay, thank you. Board, comment, questions, clarifications?
I have just one question. Brant, I'm just curious, because I know like it's supposed to happen like every 3 months or something, so I'm just curious, like, is that a policy thing? Is that a legal thing? Like, what's the concern of, not being able to meet?
Yeah. Good question, and it was one that was brought up earlier in the year. And it is actually a requirement only to meet once every year. That's the CBOC minimum requirement. We as a district, we actually very much enjoy those meetings. That's why we try to do them quarterly. Plus with all the projects going on, we kind of have a lot to update the CBOC on, generally speaking. And moving forward to next school year, we're looking to get back to that quarterly meeting
So compliance wise, we're okay.
Yep.
And then numbers wise, are we short 2 right now? What are we currently?
Currently short 2,
And what are the 2 areas?
community member at large.
We're both community member at large.
Mhm.
It's like the easiest one to fill.
I know. I know.
So hopefully beginning of the year, we should be
We'll
good.
get them.
Yeah,
We've been adding members,
yeah,
so.
because before it was the other like specific ones, you had to get a very
Yep.
small niche, so we got those ones.
We have a relatively new.
So at large, meaning they don't have to be parents or anything, they just have to be able to.
Yes.
Just reside in the district.
And are you staying for next year, Doug?
I'm gonna answer for him, yes. All the committee members whose terms were up or are up in June have agreed to go on and extend to a second term with the district. Each member can go up to 3 terms, so.
Nice. Cool.
And then I will just say thank you to Doug. So I know we met twice. It is a time commitment for our members, so from myself and the rest of the district, we appreciate the time and the effort that you put into it. And again, we really enjoy these meetings. It's really fun.
Yeah, pass along, Doug, our appreciation to all of the members. We
Will do.
appreciate your guys' time.
Absolutely.
Okay, and with that, we pass to item 9, review and action. And our first one is gonna be, well, a big item this year, probably every year, local accountability, the approval of the local control accountability plan and California local indicators. And for that, we're gonna have a presentation for Dr. Tasha Dean, Chief Teaching and Learning Officer.
I won't be presenting, but I will be reviewing content, but no formal presentations. Okay, so we have gotten to this journey here with our LCAP plan. So we're coming tonight, or I'm coming tonight with regards to getting final approvals. Before going into making that request, I just wanted to kind of highlight some areas that we talked about in our last meeting, and then also a few additional comments that have come forth from the board for clarification purposes. So I wanted to highlight the conversation that we had with regards to our LCAP plan around supporting all of our English language learners and with the target population that we've had over this past year and moving forward. But in addition to that, some greater emphasis was requested around support for English language learners and our English language development programs at the middle school. So I wanted to capture that here in the cover because within the plan, why that there's not a specific metric tied to that that spells out middle school, there are metrics that are specifically related to the population and the group that we have in question. So that will be progress monitored through the various ways by which we're doing that, through reclassifications, through our benchmarking that we're doing throughout the district and some of the other ways by which we're monitoring that progress. So it is a focus, but will be called out in a different way. In addition to that, there was some clarifications with regards to how we were addressing and emphasizing inclusivity and the welcoming of our families and what we would do about that. So within the goal, we have added the additional support of an outreach supervisor who will be working with our Director of Student Supports, Paul Slayton, in some of our family engagement activities, which includes a multitude of things. But some of those focus areas will be just in increasing and improving our opportunities for volunteer opportunities for our family and our communities. That would also be looking at how we offer parent education and workshops. So a lot of our work has been dedicated from the district level anyway, at the district level. But some of our work will be now moving out to our school sites with regards to how we cultivate and support them in the offerings that they're actually supporting. So if they need additional supports, we will be supporting in some of those efforts. And then one of the other big ways why it's a dedicated school we're focusing in on, some of this work will be around how do we develop the community school model. Our focus this year will be around Lakewood, but what we're learning there are concepts that we are working with all of our outreach assistants to capture at the sites that they're supporting in conjunction with a social worker. So even though our dedicated, if you want to say pilot site, is Lakewood, what we're learning and doing there will be transformed and transitioned to other sites that we're supporting. So that's just to give you some of the ideas of what's going into some of the requests that you had last time. And then to summarize all of that and come back again, in the fall when we have more information, you had asked some questions which I will reemphasize in just a moment, but we will be coming back with what the final plans are to address some of those more specific issues that you raised, so you know exactly what the action plans are, what's happened or hasn't happened, and where we are in that actual planning progress related to those two items. The other area I wanted to emphasize before moving forward with the approval is there was some clarification with regards to one of our questions in the LCAP that we had to finalize for a meeting, but I wanted to clarify. One of those was with regards to language, so I wanted to reemphasize again that we have updated the language in goal number 4 and also in goal 3 action 4 to reflect some of those changes that you had. So those updates have been submitted and gotten feedback on from the county. So we should be in a really good place to move forward and get our final approvals from the county with your approvals tonight. So those are just some areas I wanted to emphasize that I know were important and concerns as they are for you, as they are for us. But we are looking at how we can support those in other ways to provide additional targeted support. Also with the voices of our leaders and our administrators, but also from our community as well. And so with that, I am coming forth to request your approval of our LCAP plan, local control and accountability plan, and our California local indicators, which is captured within the plan itself. And with that, I will take any additional questions.
Thank you. Before we ask for public comments, is any clarification that we need or? Okay, so if there is any member of the public who would like to speak on this particular item, please raise your hand. Now, if you're in person, please give us a comment card. If you are online, please raise your hand online. We have one person, perfect.
All right, thank you, Brewster.
Oh, good.
Hello, hi Tasha, and everybody. I really appreciate all the work that you've been putting in, Tasha, you and your team, and the responsiveness you have, how responsive you've been to like the board direction. I see a lot of focus on community engagement. And I'm really curious about this community school model as well that's being piloted at Lakewood. And I want to again offer through the Ed Foundation our support in doing whatever community building we can together and sharing resources and knowledge across the school district. So again, thank you so much. This looks great.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we can comment this.
Yeah.
You wanted to answer?
Well, so
Yeah.
the public
We don't
can
need
make
to-
comment, but then you have to direct questions to the.
Yes, do you, yeah, I mean, if you wanna address we, I think we kind of know a little bit about community schools, but if you want to extend that, what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are extended our planning time. We have a planning grant that we're working on with that, and a part of that has been assessments that we've done specifically with the Lakewood families and community to kind of weigh in on what's important for them. A big part of the community school, the way I like to look at it is one-stop shopping, right? So a parent family arrives and we either provide the service or whatever they're looking for there, and if we don't have it, we don't send them somewhere else to go get it. We kind of direct them specifically to it, and when possible, have that resource to make its way to the campus some way, even if it's just making the connection at the campus so that it's more meaningful and sustainable for families. So we have a kind of our top areas that we're going to be focusing in on Lakewood. I won't share in all of that yet, but some of those areas are around attendance and after-school programmings that have been identified by both students and families for Lakewood. And so a part of our work this year is deciding what programs will those be, how will we fund them, and then how will we evaluate the partnerships that we developed this year for additional supports to the campus. So those are some of the things that we're doing and will be doing with regards to that work at Lakewood.
Perfect. Thank you. And now, do we have a motion before we have our comments? Do we have a motion for this item?
I move approval for adopting the 2023 Sunnyvale School District Local Control and Accountability Plan and California Local Indicators.
I'll second.
Okay. Now, boards, any questions or comments related to this particular item?
Yeah, I have a clarification. So I put in the packet comments, I think there just is a typo, I'm guessing, on the summary on page 1, because the for goal 1, action 4, action 3 is about science, and it says we'll complete the adoption of a science curriculum for grades 6 through 8, and in the interim do some other stuff. And then there's no update on that one. And then on action 4, it says convene an elementary history social science task force to review stuff. And then, of course, we did adopt that, right? But and that's what you said, oh, that was an error because we adopted the new history social science curriculum. But the sentence that's there says this action has been suspended since the adoption of science curriculum in grades 6 through 8 has been completed. So I was just wondering if the science was done. I just think it just has to, that was my only little thing. I don't know, because we did both, right, in the last 3 years. So I think it's just a typo and
Well, I'm gonna give you a point of clarification that we actually received from the county. What action is it? I wanna be sure I have the right one though.
so it's just, I was looking at the summary and I was also looking at it's goal 1 and it's actions 3 and 4. So I was looking at the summary and in action 3, it just said, action 3 is about adopting science stuff.
Yeah.
And we did that. And then action 4 is about adopting histories and social science.
Okay, so the clarification we got from the county, so we reverted back to the original language. So we actually removed the suspension language from that. And the reason being is that there's still money tied to it. So while we have rolled out the programs and the curriculum, we're still going to be providing training and coaching. So while that initial rollout has occurred, but since funds are still tied to the coaching, training, and possible additional materials that need to fill in, we had to remove that. So it'll revert back to its original form with that suspended language being removed.
Okay, super, for both, okay. And then I had a question still about the, I heard what you were saying, I read in the packet review response about the language learners at the middle school and how that's an ongoing development. I heard what you just said, that you're still working it all out. But I just wanna be really clear because for my question about the ratio, because I know that we have different ratios for a lot of different categories of things. We have, younger elementary kids, 1 to 24, older kids through middle school, 1 to 32. Special education, don't know exactly what their ratio is, I'm sure we have one. TK and preschool, they have their ratios, right? So everyone has like these different ratios. And what my question was on June 1st was, what is the appropriate ratio? Not whether or not the teachers that we would get would be qualified and we'd have one awesome teacher for 32 kids and, or 2 cruddy teachers for 13 or 15 kids, which as a system, I know the system is resistant to changing or adjusting. And I know we have fabulous teachers in those roles that can do lots of things and we can provide coaching and more data. But I'm just asking, do you really think, and do the principals and the teachers and the administrators, do we really think 1 to 32 is the correct ratio? And if it's not, will the district at some point address what that is? And so maybe it's not in the LCAP, but I think we really have to look at it because the kids are, when I volunteered in those classrooms, the kids are typically have all different levels and many of them have had disruptions and they're coming from all different countries and they're all new to the United States for the ELD 1 and 2.
Mhm.
So that was my question. It wasn't would you rather have one great teacher and one, 2 not so great teachers? That wasn't what I was asking.
Absolutely,
Okay.
but to answer the question, we don't have a specific written ratio, but I can give you the parameters by which we're kind of looking at, right? So, yeah, you start from whatever it is with our teachers at our middle school, but once you have to intervene and it's an intervention program, then that reduces that ratio and we're trying to look at that. So I think the answer we're trying to figure out is what is the right resource support for that ratio. So for example, depending on who makes up that classroom, a strong teacher with 2 additional bilingual pairs, for example, might be the solution. But depending on what the needs are of the student, that also could not be the solution. But the way that we want to look at that is to assess who's in the classroom. And I hate to use this comparison, but it's really what it is. So like in our more moderately impaired special education classrooms, right? Yeah, you could just say, oh yeah, it's 1 to 14, but the reality is 1 to 14 may also be too many. So it really depends on who's showing up and who's in the classroom, because even that ratio on paper, depending on who the students are, could also be too high. So we're trying to assess that based upon, are they a student who's long-term English language learner? Are they newcomers? What is the diversity of languages that are actually making up the supported classroom? And what are some of the other skill needs in the classroom? So
ELD 1 and 2, they're all newcomers pretty much. I mean, none of them are long-term English learners. They're all new to the country. I mean, they should be new to the country. They're that, you know what I mean?
Yes.
They're designated as ELD 1, means very little English proficiency. But some of those kids are coming and they're Spanish is their second language. They have an indigenous language, so they're already multi-language learners. And and I don't know if I've ever seen in all of our walkthroughs, I don't know if I've ever seen one of our ELD 1 classes or ELD 2 classes with 2 paraeducator, bilingual paraeducators in them, we just haven't been able to offer that level of support. So I love the idea of having a menu for principals and teachers to sort of choose from, depending on who's in the room. But and I agree with you, we have some really phenomenal people who are really dedicated and have lots of credentialing. But it's a lot. So anyway, I'm just hoping that we can come out with some solutions. And I just think about not special education, but Strive, right? Those are some very some kids with a lot of needs and a lot of variables. I've never seen 32 kids in stride. Okay, so that was my other thing, and then I'll just let other people talk, and if we have time, I'll come back to my one other thing. Go ahead.
Any other comments right now? Okay, yeah, one of the things maybe like if we can note, well, I suppose you are also talking about that, what would be the minimum standard like for these situations? And also, I think this is also part of the LCAP in a way, although maybe lateral, as we were talking also with the SEF, about other services that enrich the activities of every child, like field trips, maybe like also trying to understand what should be our standard of field trips a year. In that case, everybody should have at least, well, I think right now we do at least one, but understanding if two is gonna make a better hands-on education for the children or more depending on the age. Do we know, can we improve what we're doing and how can we do that? And also, for the ELDs and the kids who are really needing to catch up very fast to be able to read at a level, what is the actual minimum standard that we want to give to these children. And I think that the more skilled teachers should be the ones who teach the kids with more needs and more trauma and more like those, that's where we should put our smartest and more, I don't know if smarter, well, more like the strong teachers, the more spectacular teachers should be with the kids who are needing 1,000 times more than the regular kids, yeah.
And the way we're assessing that again, that's why we're gonna come back to you, because we're trying to say, if enrollment is where we currently think it will be, we'll have things set in a way to address that with not having the large sizes, for example, that you talked about, but a part of the plan is also if in fact that isn't, what will we do and what will we be prepared to do based upon those changes in enrollment if that occurs.
You mean if the kids don't actually show up? The kids
No, I
who
mean,
were
if we
last
get
year?
more than what we are anticipating, like, we kind of have it set based upon what we think we have and what might show up. But if that number is significantly more, what is our plan to be responsive immediately to what those particular needs would be?
Yeah, because this is the money meeting, right? Like
Yes,
we're
yes.
approving this and then we're approving the budget, so
Yes,
like
yes.
that, I mean, that's what so I saw that SMS was talking about 13 student sections and they can support one. I didn't understand what that meant.
Basically, right now with the current staffing that they have staff that are not just doing that, but are supporting other sections. But if for some reason enrollment increases, then that one of those staff who are currently able to support would be removed. And if that happens, we would then have to support that with an additional teacher.
Isabel, to your point about, are you on?
No.
Hello? 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 Isabel, to your point about the field trips, I agree with you that I feel like students should have that field trip. I feel like it could be in the future a good thing to add to our priority 7, access to a broad course of study. Is that something that we would talk about now or talk about for future changes?
Future, yeah, we cannot change this, but maybe we can, I don't know, in addition to that, as we come in, we're trying to equalize a little bit between, the schools that can afford tons. Then we need to think about, well, the schools who cannot afford tons, so then at least give them the best chance to have more hands-on education and enrichment experiences. Maybe this is something that we can do. We can partner as much as we can. That would be great. And if not, then, but if we say like at least X, at least Y, we need to know what is the X that we can give, and we recommend like a minimum of enrichment activities for these kids.
I have a question, is that something you're thinking would go in an LCAP? I just wanna make sure, or is that something that you're thinking, because we had talked about a broader idea of like experiences for by grade level or things like that, like we've talked about that before. Are you thinking, because I'm just trying to understand how it.
Yeah, I
is in the
think it will be
LCAP.
for the next one. Yeah, I
Like
think
in the
there's
next
some-
3-year LCAP,
Yes, in
to
the
really
next
talk
years,
about the hands-on piece, okay.
yeah. Yes, Nancy?
Yeah, I would concur that this is like a policy philosophy discussion. And I think we need to have that discussion first, and that can drive the LCAP. But we need to have that policy focus first, because it is more than just the LCAP. It also has budgetary implications and equity implications. So that should be something that should be agendized and separate from the LCAP process. It can be folded into the LCAP document if it's an agreed upon set of priorities and a shift in our policy.
So we should agendize that for some time next year.
Yeah, before we start building the LCAP, then?
Yes.
If I could,
There's gonna be a lot of focus next year on building the new LCAP. I don't know, that's kind of exciting to me. I just trying to think of like where we've come the last couple of years has generated a lot of ideas and new momentum around equity and our understanding of equity and anti-racism and opportunities for all kids. And what we're gonna wanna do is take that energy and funnel it into policy broader, and then like not everything goes in the LCAP. We can do things that aren't in the LCAP and decide what goes there and what we make sure happens otherwise. So yeah, that's gonna be a big part of next year.
So is there enough money in the budget for a change in ratios like you're describing? Like,
I've been told that our chief business person here, chief financial person, will make some magic happen.
So what happens is, right now, Tasha went to the middle school principals and said, what do you need?
yeah,
And, you know, we don't have to go over all that now, there's a comprehensive response to that. In terms of more staffing, that wasn't it, but they did say, if there's more kids, then we're gonna need to be flexible. That happens throughout the year. As soon as the budget is printed, I hate to say this right before we approve it, but it starts getting out of date immediately because we start making adjustments all the time during the year. What we've recognized this year is we need to be more nimble, more responsive as things come up. And that's actually gonna be one of our themes is we're, again, going back to our planning for next year, is anticipating the unanticipated. And how will we respond to that? No, we won't do it perfectly. I don't want to make a million promises. But I want to have that mindset going in that there are some things that we can anticipate won't go quite right. Because as I said before in my opening comments, next year we want to be a year of results, not a year of like, oh, we got more kids in this category than we expected. Oh, such and such, these teachers weren't able to show up for whatever reason. So we'll do it next year. No, we don't want that. We want to minimize those types of, I'll just use the word excuses for not getting the results that we want to get. So, yeah, so what would happen is we'd meet in executive cabinet and we'd say like, okay, there's more newcomers at pick a school, Bishop School this year, so we need more support for that. What does the principal say? And then we can address that based on the needs that are presented to us.
So you gotta add to your Innovate card, permission to be nimble.
well,
Permission
you
to
know,
innovate, permission to be nimble.
There you
They can
go.
throw it to you. Hey, we gotta be nimble, we gotta do this.
Yeah.
but I really think that like if you ask the principals, I mean, they understand that they're used to operating within our systems and within our boundaries, right? So like they might not be asking for additional staffing because they know the ratios are 1:32 or 1:24. You know what I mean?
It hasn't been my experience that they've been shy about asking for more staffing.
More staffing.
And I want to speak to this item even more specifically. I specifically asked the question, so it wasn't are you gonna be okay with what you have? It was, these are what we're looking for English language learners next year, and also in alignment with your goals. What is missing, or do you see that this is not gonna allow you to do what it is will be expected? And right now, they're feeling good, but they're working on their master schedules and figuring that out. So they could come back in 3 days and tell me something different, but as of right now, they feel like the staffing they have is going to allow classrooms to be organized in a way that will allow them to target in the way that they need to.
But if you, okay, so last thing to say this, because I really feel like that is to get them through to the results that they have, to the minimum results, right? To like the results that, like, we're having these incremental results, we're getting a D on a report card statewide for Hispanic and Latino youth, right? And so like, if we say like to meet what our expectations are, which may be kind of low, and you know, if we're getting a D- at the state level in general, other than our environmental issues.
Yeah, that wasn't the conversation that Tasha had with the principals. It wasn't about low expectations. Maybe you could share what the expectations.
The question was, how do we change the cycle here in Sunnyvale? So that's kind of part of it. And in addition to that, being realistic, we need to grow at least 1.5 years or 2 years of growth for students. That was the question. So what do you need in order that each of the students that we've identified, which we all know who that is, what would you need in order to move that forward? Also, in the comments that I shared, there's some other things that they want to do that are not really tied to ratios in classrooms, but more about after-school programming and even summer programming. So there are other things that they're thinking about that may not be tied to a ratio and a teacher, I would say the theme of conversations I've had that included not just the principals, but instructional coaches as well as psychologists is time. And not just time when they're with us, but even time beyond. How do we extend the time that we can have an influence and opportunity to support their learning and growth? And that is a variable that they definitely do see, and that was consistent on all groups when I spoke with them.
And so you asked them if they wanted more support, and they said no.
No, that
You
is,
asked them if they wanted more staffing, and they said no, thanks.
no, that's not what they said. They said right now, they feel like the staffing they have is gonna allow them to work through the goals that they have.
Okay.
But then after they see what their enrollment is and they finish their schedules, that could shift. But as of right now, they feel like they are adequately and appropriately staffed to carry out the goals of what they need to do.
And I think Nancy has a question.
A question, but a comment. I think when we think outside the box, we need to look at multiple strategies and not one right way. And it feels like a ratio in and of itself is prescriptive. And I appreciate people being able to think outside the box with advocacy for the realities that they're seeing on the ground. And if we're going to be nimble, we need to be flexible. And I feel like right now, putting a target on a specific ratio is not allowing enough flexibility at looking at the whole plan. We're just looking at one aspect.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I'm excited about
right now, and that could be another part of our philosophy discussion that we have in the fall about.
And I am excited about all the other nimbleness and stuff. I mean, I think that is great that they've got a whole other plan. So that's awesome.
Yeah, but I understand that the philosophy of having a very, what it looks like an overcrowded class with a young teacher, maybe they are awesome too. In our classrooms with the most need and the more challenging classrooms, when we have kids that have different traumas, different experience. One of them is 1 year behind, one of them is 5 years behind, one of them had never been in school, the other one is just gonna be writing out there. I mean, it's a very complex situation, a mobile situation, and he's coming 1 month, first time seeing anyone speaking English was last month, or others 5 years. I mean, you have a very complex classroom, kids with different kind of traumas and situations, coming from war, coming from any kind of things, and it's an overcrowded classroom. And we are talking about, equity and anti-racism and trying to bring everybody up to speed. And it doesn't have a good feeling. So we don't want to be prescriptive and tell you it's 12 or it's 14 or it's 15, but it's just a reality that it just make us feel not comfortable that we're doing enough. Okay.
Yeah, the situation for the. Hello?
Yes.
Okay, so I agree with the conversation, and I do feel like the situation with the first year English learners is exceedingly complicated in all the ways that have previously been outlined with the different behaviors, with the different levels. I am curious to what degree the traditional, to what degree teachers or anyone can be expected to differentiate on that level. That just seems like such a difficult ask to have of one teacher. I understand too the need for flexibility and the need to accommodate a constantly changing population. I'm curious if at some point there would be a trigger or something that would make us say, yes, we do need another teacher in there. Is there some like limit that we hit that makes, that would make either the existing teacher or the principal or something say, yes, I need a new teacher, or if they are continuing this way because this is the only way they know?
I would say that goes back against to, it's somewhat related to ratios, but it's related to ratios and who's in the seats. In addition to that, it's going to be based upon the ongoing daily progress monitoring, but also benchmark data that we're doing. So if we see, students maybe are not progressing and looking at that, so is it instructional methodology? Is it time? Is it what? I think those things lead to whether it's additional staffing, is it the time of day, like what are the other variables? Because I can definitely say with the diversity of what those classrooms are, what the it is could be very different for each of the kids. So I think our responsibility, and I do hear you about the diversity in classrooms, but coming from and have the majority of my career teaching all children who always come with more to the table, that's a part of the work. And it is complicated work, but I don't think it's unrealistic work for experience of teachers, and that's why we're here to support them. To me, it's no different than a child with special needs. So who shows up, that's who we teach. And when we have deficit areas that as a teacher and we see we're not meeting a need, that's our responsibility to go to our principal, go to the coaches that we have. Our principals do a good job of saying, hey, my whatever team is really struggling, we need some help here. We figure out what that help is and then try to come up with solutions. Sometimes it's staffing, sometimes it's training and coaching, sometimes it's just saying this is hard, let's get in here and try it again. So just being present for what the it is, because the it can change. Is really important.
Well, I feel like, well, go ahead, do you want to say something? Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I asked for a while ago. So I think maybe to kind of wrap this together, what it seems like to me, right, is a while ago, board gave direction that we want to focus on middle school ELs. It sounds like, right, staff is working on that. And so it seems like it's maybe kind of in a space similar to the transportation, right? We're they're gonna go work on it, some stuff's gonna work, some stuff's not. And maybe as a board, we ask for an update in fall, something we're gonna get with the home transportation. Since it is an area that we're interested in, to kind of say, hey, how's it going? What was some of the nimbleness? What have been some of the successes? What are some things that are struggling? Do we need anything to support? It kind of seems like that's the space that we're in right now. We've given direction, let's let staff go and do, and they report back to us in the fall.
Well, I wanted to, before we do that, I wanted to say, I remember the first year we came back after the pandemic, and there were classrooms that had very low enrollment, and we didn't reshuffle them, right? Because we said, this is an opportunity for us to let the children recover and let the staff go do deep dives, do deep work with the kids. And we're gonna have less kids in not all classrooms, but some classrooms had some pretty low numbers. And I talked to some of those teachers and I'm like, where are your kids? And they're like, she's like one of the teachers said, well, you know, this is what I've got this year. It's been amazing. We've done so much stuff. I've been able to like really, it's like, you know, just like a gift from the district that they didn't create combo classes and like really enforce that 24-to-1 ratio for the lower kids. And I feel like if there are best practices out there, and I understand we have union agreements and union contracts, and I'm not trying to say, well, you know, I don't want to get into a thing where it's like, well, my classroom's harder than that classroom, and this type of teacher is, you know, does far harder work than that type of teacher. I'm not trying to get into that, but I think newcomers fall into a category where they are just very different, like you were saying, special education classroom, because of support, not because of, you know, any sort of learning differences, right? So
Both.
it's just,
Actually,
but I mean,
both, yeah.
but I mean, you weren't trying to be critical, and you were
Right.
careful about how you were saying that. So I understand that. I just feel like if we ignore the ratio area, it's not that I'm just looking for a ratio. I just really feel that at the middle school level, 32 kids is just too many. And if we say it's not, it's like we're gaslighting ourselves. You know what I mean? Like we're just saying like everything's fine here. We can make it.
Bridget, what's the prescription? What is it that you were wanting?
I'm wanting to understand, like, because once they get into this school year, they're not gonna come and change it for that year. Like, it's just, I know you're saying we're gonna be.
So what is it that you are wanting?
I'm wanting us to really question, just like we would preschool or Strive or any other grade levels, what is the appropriate ratio for those classrooms? And if everybody if all the principals and teachers and the DO and the unions and everybody says, all the adults say, it's 1-32, just like anyone else for middle school ELD, so be it. But I don't believe that would happen if that was like actually a part of the equation, saying we really want to look at this, we're really serious about this.
Is there an existing system by which we establish ratios for special education classrooms, to use your example? And can we use a similar formula to that for the EL classrooms?
There's not one specifically for English language courses at this time, but I would say yes, similar practices or approaches can be used because it's based upon severity of need, complexity of learning challenges potentially that a student might have, some of those elements. So principals are looking at those elements, and again, the ratios are not 1-32 at this time, but given in this conversation this evening and waiting on them to finalize their schedules, they're going to be coming back to me so that we can follow up and they can give me what those actual numbers are. And also, they know what the questions are that go with those classrooms because we've had that conversation already. So they're really clear about what we're seeking and also what they're seeking. I can just say it's coming here because they are equally as motivated to see the bars raised for our students. So they're very conscientious and very focused on what is needed in order to move the bar.
But yeah, fall update sounds great.
Yes, and yes, and we are planning one. That's on the docs to be able to do that.
And I brought this before, we talked about this before. In addition to the LCAP, we consider it, we decided to table it before, but I think they go hand by hand because most of our kids would have in the LCAP are also English learners. Do we want to add a roadmap, an English learner roadmap, like one of the state formulas that other districts are adding to?
We have an
maybe
English
adding
language,
that?
we have an English language learner roadmap. So we have that, what our dedicated principles are, methodologies, approaches that we're using, like all of that is in there. So we actually have a dedicated focus on how we're approaching the learning of the students. So that piece we actually have and use as a part of our work.
So it feels like this discussion is not going to result in what it is that you're wanting tonight, other than we've all agreed that we're going to get an update. This discussion is kind of going beyond the LCAP discussion, and we're now getting into EL components of more philosophy and program direction that we want to give about a different program. And I would invite us to do that after we get the updating information, and we can make more informed distinctions around what we're doing about our EL learners, and if there's something that we want to do differently with regards to our EL roadmap, but that's going to happen in the fall.
Yes, well, thank you. Are there any additional comments? I think that, I mean, we know all, where is that we're lacking, and is, the LCAP is the most important, I think, because it's exactly the kids who are behind. We're happy about the kids who are ahead, and we want to keep pushing them. This is our challenge, and this is the best opportunity we have to discuss these issues. And the kids who need the extra help, the kids who get the extra help from the state, from federal, that we are going to push. And this is why we're getting every opportunity to, highlight our priorities, and this is where we get to discuss it, and that's why we're doing it. And I think it's important, and thank you for putting all this effort. And I know that this is, you put your heart out and on your education, and you are one of the most highly qualified people that is, and putting everything here, and we appreciate that, and thank you for all the work for you and your team.
And I just would like to speak on behalf of not just me, but the entire teaching and learning team, actually the entire district. I think it feels really good that people understand what our focus is and why, and that resonates, and that's great, and we plan to build upon that. Dr. Gallagher shared some of that in his remarks, and so we definitely get this. Like Brent, I love a challenge. I'm a coach at heart, so give me the bar and I want to achieve it and go over it. So I think the entire team recognizes that. We know we have a challenge. Dr. Valentine and her work and leadership these past few months to get 3 pilots out and new curriculum. Why? Because our data said we needed it. Our teachers said we needed it. So we did it. Normally that's a year process. We did it literally in about 3.5, 4 months. So people are definitely hearing and seeing what the data is saying. We recognize we need to disrupt some things. And I think we're prepared and we have the right teams to be disrupted. So I feel very confident that we're gonna do some of this work. I feel I've been given, as I would tell my kids, my marching orders. And we're clear about what those are, and we take it very seriously, and we're prepared to do the work.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So I think we need to vote on this. Please, everybody who is who wants to pass the local accountability plan, please say aye.
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 Okay, and with that, we pass.
So I have a quick question. If we're gonna be done in like 20 minutes, we can plow through. If it's gonna take longer than that, I need a 5-minute break.
Yeah, we are not. Only the next 20 minutes, definitely. So let's have a 5-minute break. It's 8:15, so let's be back at, 16, let's be back at 8:21.
Watch 20 minutes.
It is.
We do lots of zigzag and walk and don't. And then if you walk down, you walk across the greater surface of the other crater. Oh, it's like, what do you call it, like, it's not inactive, but it's just like dormant. And she goes, well, not really, it's not really dormant, it's like still on the floor under there, it's like.
Oh, but dormant is not like space.
I was like so convinced that like, aliens were gonna.
We're gonna like sucked into the lava.
So scary. And then we walked through a lava tube. Those are very dark. Lit with red lights.
Yeah.
We're just like.
All right.
But I would never do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I've done too many.
Okay. Is anyone, Sandra made it, and 35 minutes? Now it's 6, but we are back to session, is 8:22. And now the next item is B, 9B, which is the approval of the 2023-2024 adoption budget. And for that, our contact person is Lori Van Gogh, the Chief Business Officer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm here to ask for your approval of the 23-24 adoption budget as presented on June 1st.
Okay, so if there is any comment from the public on this particular item,
We don't make.
we move on to.
Public comment, then we can.
I'm so confused.
If there's any public comment, please bring a card to the back or to raise your hand on Zoom with your picture or comments right now. No one is has any comment or questions. With that, before we speak, there is a motion for passing the budget.
I'll move to approve budget.
Okay, any seconds?
I'll second that.
Okay, with that, any comments or questions for our annual budget about?
Yes, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Well, yes, well, thank you very much for all the work and everything that is involved in this very important item. So we can keep paying our bills next year and having a district. We appreciate that.
It's my pleasure.
Making the magic happen.
And making it happen, yeah. And with that, everybody who wants to approve it, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, with all ayes, then we approve the 2023-2022 budget.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. The next item is approving the resolution R2324 in the matter of recognizing lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, intersex, asexual, LGBTQIA+ Pride Month for next year. And with that, we added in the resolution, as you read it in the package, also the coming out day that is in October, and the contact person for this. I am the contact person for this. And our general recommendation is to approve it. I don't know if you want to read it, it's kind of long. It would be.
We don't typically do them.
Yeah, we don't typically.
Well, read it out loud in the meeting.
So I think Yeah, personally, we think it's important that we protect and support every child and all our students. With that in mind, we have a general resolution and we are following also state standards in supporting our kids. But I felt that it is important, even more entering into, given the national news and everything that is on the news that are marginalizing kids who may feel different in any way. And also in lieu of next year, very contested elections and the climate, I think we need to have an extra step to make sure that our kids feel safe and feel that every place in our district and hopefully in our city is a safe haven. And with that, there are two important things that we can do to show that during the coming out day, during the month, the Pride Month next June, and the coming out day in October, to make them feel welcome and reminded that we support it. So with that, I will ask our board to approve this resolution. Yes, so we move to public comments. So if there is any member of the public who wants to speak on this particular item, which tonight is 9C, please bring a card if you're in person or raise your hand on your Zoom or your Zoom at the bottom, your electronic hand. Any comment? Okay. Suppose everybody's supporting us on that then. Board, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the motion.
Okay, anyone who wants to second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay.
Dan's doing the second.
Hello. Okay, any comments or questions on this? Yes?
Having following the night in Florida, it's just very distressing to see how the atmosphere of inclusion has become more exclusive and unwelcoming. And I believe that, I believe strongly that it's the right time to continue to affirm members of our community, not just our school community, but the broader community are welcomed here in this space in Sunnyvale.
I have a question. So we're doing this resolution, so that means that next year we could do something else, but this every June and every October 11th will be recognized, like going forward, because now it's our resolution that we've acknowledged this. Is that correct?
I think that's what I was looking for, yeah.
Yes, I don't know what recognized means, but yes.
Okay, so that was my next question. My next question is we are adopting that we're gonna recognize it. And so then does the district, because you have a little time right before October 11th, then will the district propose or just report to the board how we're going to recognize that? Like, are we raising flags? Are we, having an event? Like, how are we recognizing it?
Let me say this, and I'm going to speak as a member of the community that this is meant to address.
Yeah.
I think that this is timely just for the reason that Nancy said. Across the country, there are people who are attacking the rights of members of my community. And I'm most, of course, concerned about the kids. However, a resolution in and of itself is not as important as the climate on school campuses. So what makes me really proud is when I hear about professional development for staff at San Miguel School, for example, around gender inclusivity. What makes me really proud is hearing about parents who talk about their kid feeling welcome at school. Or if I hear about kids who maybe aren't accepted at home for who they are, have a place to go at school where they can be supported. So there isn't, like, if you ask the question, like, what's the thing that the district's going to do? That's really, really hard for me to answer. It's easier for me to think in terms of, let's create a climate. A resolution articulates a vision that the board has. It doesn't really get at what the social worker is going to say to the student or to the family. It doesn't really get at what a teacher is going to do when that teacher encounters a child in their class that is feeling different. So that's really, really hard work. And what I'm really proud about is in this district, we are really firmly committed to that work. So I don't know how else to answer it other than that. And then to look at Tasha and say, like, well, what's your answer?
I think the resolution sets the values,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But I wanted to say something like that in terms of this because there's a little bit of fear. I'm not in this district, but when I talk to other superintendents about resolutions becoming somewhat performative, and I don't want that to ever be the case here because it's the work needs to be done is so much more deep than just the resolution.
And I think the only thing I would want to add is what you do when no one's looking. So what we're shooting for in Sunnyvale is that our community, our teachers, our staff, our students, regardless if someone's telling them what they should or shouldn't do, they do it. They do it because they've learned it's the right thing to do and that they stand up when they need to stand up. They advocate when they should be advocating and don't remain silent. That's really what we're shooting for here in Sunnyvale.
So I love that and I agree with it and I've witnessed it and I support it. I'm also just asking, like, because this just says recognize, like, I think one of the things that, like, we have seen other districts, like, you know, add an extra flag to their flagpole or, you know, other things like that. And I understand that it is just symbolic. I get it that a flag for one day is symbolic and we could run the pride flag every day. It's really great. But are we also thinking of like some symbolic gesture as well to add on to all the other things to kind of, you know, to communicate to people who might not be involved with that? Like they, you know, like some parents might not interact with at that level and they might not be aware. And so this is just signaling like, hey, everybody's safe here, you know?
I guess what I would say to that is I go back to the nothing for me without me. So if you want to fly a flag at the district office, sure, I think the people in this room are the ones in charge of that. But if we get to a school site, I would want to talk to the school community and the kids and the families the kids and the families who are affected, not the kids who, or not the families who might have supporting this issue. So that's where I wouldn't want to make a decision tonight about.
No, I'm not asking you to. So I'm just saying like, so like I'm interested in doing like, so like on those days or in those months, I'm interested in doing something that's expressive of all the work we do all year round. And so like, that was my question, like, will the district be coming up with something to do for those days? A celebration, something and you know what I mean? Or raising a flag.
Yeah, so I defer to the student services department and have them work with kids and families and teachers and see like what would be appropriate.
I like that answer.
It's a journey, not a destination. And so I think it's going to evolve over time, and what we might do today may be very different moving forward, because we're responsive to the communities where they're at the moment. But certainly it's an opportunity for education of community, of the broader community, maybe it's the work that we're doing. And like Dr. Gallagher said, communicating everything that we're doing every day to forward that type of inclusion and belonging is something that I would want to see highlighted during those particular times, but not the only time.
I want to say
It's an
that-
ongoing.
Right. I want to say that I am excited that we're putting forward this resolution, particularly this year when so many, hello? When this community and these rights are under attack in a really unprecedented way. It's really not that long ago that gay marriage on a national level was approved, and sometimes it's weird to reflect on that, being Californian, and it feels like it's been here forever, but it's really not. And especially within the last couple of years with the movement on Supreme Court, it feels increasingly like that's support that can be withdrawn on a federal level, and something that this year we've been seeing this sort of support that's been being withdrawn by companies, for example, who have been undergoing boycotts or threats to their employees because they support this in this way. And I am really glad that we as a district or as a board are talking about this and committing to our values in this way. A thing that I believe is important for us to commit to as a district as well to this point is having gender neutral bathrooms for students at each of the schools. I think that a lot of the schools right now have an accommodation where the child who needs a gender neutral bathroom needs to go to the office and use the staff bathroom. And I understand that this is a complex facilities issue, but if in the future or something we're able to resolve that better for students so that they are not singled out for that need, I would feel happy about that.
It's in our new facilities master plan we just did,
Yeah.
is for all schools moving forward to have.
Yeah, and
That's great.
yeah, we've been having that discussion with the master plan, and the next building to be built, which is
gonna happen.
SMS is part of our menu.
That's great, yeah. I think that's really important, especially even as early as elementary school, for children to have access to that. Some of my friends have children who have known very early about themselves that they are not comfortable using the bathroom they've been assigned to. I wanted to say an anecdote, which is that in TK, my son had a phase where he loved unicorns and he loved clothes with unicorns on them. And there was this one dress that he just loved because it was in his favorite color and had unicorns. And I was talking to his teacher, and I was IMing his teacher I was messaging his teacher in the morning because I didn't know if this was gonna be a problem. I was like, he's gonna wear a dress today. He's gonna wear a dress with unicorns on it today. I just want you to know. And she was so chill about it. And she was like, oh, I wear dresses too. And that was it. And that was it. And it wasn't a big deal. He wore his dress. And I think he talked to someone about it after school, and they were like, hey, dresses are for girls, unicorns are for girls. And he was like, well, this is my dress and I'm a boy and I'm wearing it. And I thought that was great. And I was really appreciative of how chill his teacher was about it, how supportive the school was about it, and how it was just, yeah, that's your unicorn dress. Good job.
I just have one quick, just to tie on to what Tasha was saying. For anyone who's interested, I just got an email today from the library, so they're having a Teen Pride allyship presentation. And it's on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, the 27th, from 7 to 8 p.m. And they say registration's not required, but recommended. But anyway, that's something that's happening at our library that anyone is available to attend if you want to learn more about how to be a good ally.
So just to kind of follow up, so this is, the resolution itself is a recognition because it's a resolution and it's public and it's part of our board direction. But the idea that we're saying this is that there will be some sort of a recognition for those dates developed.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
So like when we say the other resolution that we pass is that we would love to have actions attached somehow, but we don't wanna say what they are. So somehow it's like when we have the Martin Luther King Day, everybody will read something or definitely will remember and talk about it and bring the issue in front So we have opportunities, and we want every side to remember and to bring it somehow in their own way up front and make it important, whatever that is. If it's a reading, if it's an assembly, if it's a letter, if it's a song, if it's a flag, we want some action attached to it somehow. And we feel that it's important for one of the reasons that you say.
Okay.
Okay, with that, everybody votes to how everybody votes on this issue, 9C. You say aye to, if you can approve it?
Aye.
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 Aye, okay, with all those ayes, we pass the resolution. And the next item on the agenda is the approval of the resolution R2327 in the matter of supporting the award of leaseback agreements for the Sunnyvale Middle School two-story classroom building project and authorize the district staff to enter into the leaseback agreement with Blatt Construction Company.
Good evening again, board. Yeah, so tonight we are asking for the board to approve, pass, and adopt resolution 2327. Just as a general overview of this process, this was the district's first leaseback contract that we were going to be going after. We adopted the competitive best value methodology for this process, which was eye-opening, competitive, interesting, engaging, everything that we were looking for as part of this process. We had a selection committee of 5 of our members, comprised of different district staff, our architect of record for the Sunnyvale Middle School project, our inspector of record that we've used throughout the last 6-7 years with the district, all evaluating each one of the firms that put in a proposal for this project. I will say that it was extremely competitive, and we believe that we have the clear winner, as they had the highest total value of the best value methodology criteria spelled out in our resolution. And we are looking for the board to adopt.
Okay, if there is any member of the public who is interested into speaking about this particular item, please raise your hand now. No one? Okay, with that, we assume that everybody's happy outside this room. In this room, board, do we have a motion to approve this item?
I move that we approve, pass, and adopt resolution number R2327. Do I read the whole thing or is that enough?
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a second. Do we have any comments or questions related to this item?
Super exciting. Thanks for all the work.
Okay, thank you. I think we're looking forward to this very much and to see drawings and things coming up. With that, everybody in favor, please say aye.
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 Perfect. With that, everybody votes aye, and we pass this resolution.
Sorry, can I say one thing on that one?
Yes.
Just so happens we were kind of hoping that was going to pass, or else it would have been a little more awkward. But we have Amber Emery, who is Block Construction Project Director. I wanted to introduce her to the board. She's going to be leading this Sunnyvale Middle School two-story project, and would give her the opportunity to speak to the board.
Yes.
Okay.
Good thing this wasn't an awkward moment.
Well, thank you everyone for having me this evening. As Brant said, I'm Amber Emery. I'm a project director at Block Construction, and on behalf of Block, we want to thank you for recommending us or for approving us this evening for our leaseback contract for Sunnyvale Middle School. Just really quick about me, I've been with Block for 17 years, working on K-12 education projects throughout the Bay Area. I've been in San Mateo County, Santa Clara County, a lot of your neighboring districts, Cupertino Union, Fremont Union. Actually, I've been working with them for over 10 years. Actually been over just down the street in their district office in a trailer out there for the last 7 years. So I know your area well. Eileen, I think I actually saw you at a board meeting last month that I was speaking there. And there we've completed 5 FOLIA buildings in that district alone, and we have 1 under construction right now. It's going to be done in October. I don't have the rest of my team here today, but I have really a great team assigned to this project. We're looking forward to it. I know this is your first lease back project, so we are really grateful that you've trusted Block to be your first lease back contractor out here. And I do really quick. Did want to just say, I'm not just saying it just to say it, but Brant and Myron and your whole team and the LPA design team have been really great to work with so far. I've been actually very impressed with the tremendous amount of legwork coming into it, just seeing all the work they've done and bringing us the lease-back contractor in early was really great because that gives us an opportunity to be the most impactful on this project. So kind of with that, yeah, we're very excited to get going on this project, really eager to get going on it. I know the school site is just as much excited about it as well. So we look forward to a successful project all around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again for coming.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we go to item E already. 9E of this evening is the verbal summary of compensation package offered to the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Information System, and we have the extra paper.
Yeah, I can read it off here.
Go ahead.
Okay, so each of these has 2 parts. First, the first item of each of the 2 parts is to read the compensation summary, and then the second part is to approve the contract. So I'm going to start with the summary of compensation package offered to the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Information Systems. And I'm going to try to go slow for the translator, but fast enough to get through this. So Government Code Section 54953C3 requires executive compensation to be orally summarized in open session before it is approved by the board. The Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Information Systems salary will be a base salary of $303,531.10 for the 2023-2024 school year and $319,827.69 for the 2024-2025 school year. The contract includes a 1-step increment each year of the contract. 1-step increment shall be equal to 2.3% of the base salary during the contract year. An annual cell phone stipend will be $600. The Assistant Superintendent is required to possess and maintain an automobile to be used for travel in performance of his regularly assigned duties throughout the district and the County of Santa Clara, for which he will receive a flat monthly car allowance of $535. The Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Information Systems shall be eligible to participate, but is not required to participate at his own expense in the insurance plans, medical, dental, and vision made available by the board to the district employees pursuant to section 22119.2B3 of the Education Code and section 125 of the Internal Revenue Code. The Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Information Systems shall receive a fully paid term life insurance program with a benefit amount of $100,000. The district shall pay the annual dues or fees for a total of 2 associations, state or national, to which the Assistant Superintendent belongs for purposes related to his duties as Assistant Superintendent, and 1 local service or community club as approved by the Superintendent. So the recommendation is that that you just hear that oral summary, which you did.
Good job.
Thanks.
Do we have any comment or?
My suggestion is you take like E and F comments together, G and H comments together.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Okay, then let's go with F.
Okay, so F is actually the contract. So this is the employment contract for the Assistant Superintendent. With this contract, the board employs the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Information Systems for a period of 3 years, beginning the first day, July 1st, 2023, and terminating on the 30th day, June 30th, 2026. And then it says the annual salary, which I said previously. So the recommendation is that the board approve the contract for, in this case, Jeremy Nishihara.
Okay. If there is any member of the public who would like to speak on this particular item, or there is any comment either in person or in other houses, please raise your hand now. Okay, seeing none, then we move, is there a motion to approve this item E and F?
I move approval of the classified assistant superintendent of human resources and information systems employment contract and salary schedule as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, with that, board, do we have any comments or questions related to these two items?
Thanks for all your work.
Yeah.
More to come.
Okay, with that, everybody who would like to pass these two items, please say aye.
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 Okay, with that, and my aye. With that, the E and F pass.
F.
And
Which is F.
It's actually just that.
The first one's a it's essentially like a presentation.
it's F, sorry, yes, the
That's okay.
presentation of F. And we're gonna do the same with G, 9G, please, Dr.
Okay, so this is for the Chief Teaching and Learning Officer. So some of this is going to be redundant. Government Code Section 54953C3 requires executive compensation to be orally summarized in open session before it's approved by the board. The Chief Teaching and Learning Officer's salary will be a base salary of $331,050.48 for the 2023-24 school year and $348,824.58 for the 24-25 school year. The contract includes a one-step increment each year of the contract. One-step increment shall be equal to 2.3% of the base salary during the prior contract year. An annual cell phone stipend will be $600. Chief Teaching and Learning Officer is required to possess and maintain an automobile to be used for travel and the performance of her regularly assigned duties throughout the district and the county of Santa Clara, for which she will receive a flat monthly car allowance of $535. The Chief Teaching and Learning Officer shall be eligible to participate, but is not required to participate at her own expense in the insurance plans, medical, dental, and vision made available by the board to district employees pursuant to Section 22119.2B3 of the Education Code and Section 125 of the Internal Revenue Code. The Chief Teaching and Learning Officer shall receive a fully paid term life insurance program with the benefit amount of $100,000. The district shall pay the annual dues or fees for a total of 2 associations, state or national, to which the Chief Teaching and Learning Officer belongs for purposes related to her duties as Chief Teaching and Learning Officer, and 1 community club as approved by the superintendent. And that's it.
Okay. And with that, then we are gonna listen to H, 9H.
Yes, so H is the approval of the contract. So with this contract, the board employs the Chief Teaching and Learning Officer for a period of 3 years, beginning on the first day, July 1, 2023, and terminating on the 30th day of June 2026. The annual salary will be, as I mentioned previously, and it is my recommendation that the board approve the Chief Teaching and Learning Officer employment contract and salary schedule as presented.
Okay, with that, if there is any member of the public who would like to speak on these particular 2 items, G and H, 9G and H of tonight, please raise your hand. Seeing none, then board, is there any?
I move approval of the Chief Teaching and Learning Officer employment contract and salary schedule as presented.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, and with that, do we have any comments, questions, suggestions?
Thank you,
Okay.
Tasha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, please, anyone who is for it, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. With that, the motion passed and we approve the documents. And the next item is item 9I and J. The verbal summary compensation package offered to our Chief Business Officer, Dr. Gallagher will tell us about it.
Okay, the Chief Business Officer's salary will be a base salary of $303,500 $531.10 for the 2023-24 school year, and $319,827.69 for the 2024-25 school year. The contract includes a one-step increment. Each year of the contract, one-step increment shall be equal to 2.3% of the base salary during the prior contract year. An annual cell phone stipend will be $600. The chief business officer is required to possess and maintain an automobile to be used for travel in the performance of her regularly assigned duties throughout the district and the county of Santa Clara, for which she will receive a flat monthly car allowance of $535. The chief business officer shall be eligible to participate, but is not required to participate at her own expense in the insurance plans, medical, dental, vision, made available to the board or by the board to the district employees pursuant to section 22119.2B3 of the Education Code and section 125 of the Internal Revenue Code. The chief business officer shall receive a fully paid term life insurance program with a benefit amount of $100,000. The district shall pay the annual dues or fees for a total of 2 associations, state or national, to which the chief business officer belongs for purposes related to her duties as chief business officer, and 1 local service or community club as approved by the superintendent. And that concludes the summary.
Okay, and with that, we're gonna go for J, sorry.
Jay, that's okay. So this is the contract for Lori Van Gogh, our chief business officer. With this contract, the board employs this chief business officer for a period of 3 years, beginning the first day of July 2023 and terminating on the 30th day of June 2026. The total salary is, as I mentioned previously, and it is recommended that the board approve the CBO employment contract and salary schedule as presented.
Okay, is there any member of the public who would like to speak about these particular 2 items? No, okay, then with that, board, is there any motion to approve item 9I and J?
I move approval of the chief business officer employment contract and salary schedule as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, and with that, let's vote on these 2 items. Anyone who is in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Perfect, and with that, do we have, with that, we pass the item 9I and 9J, the compensation passes, package for the CBO.
Forgot to say thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Lori.
You have to do the next one because it would be awkward for me to do it.
Okay.
You got lucky, I had to read all of them when I was president.
Now, the next item is item 9K, is the verbal summary compensation of the package offered to our superintendent. And by government code section 54953C and 3 requires executive compensation to be orally summarized in open session before it's approved by the board. The superintendent's salary will be a base salary of $374,458.78 for the 2023-2024 school year, and $394,563.47 for the 2024-2025 school year. The contract includes a one-step increment each year of the contract. One-step increment shall be equal to 2.34% of the base salary during the prior contract year. An annual cell phone stipend will be $600. The superintendent is required to possess and maintain an automobile to be used for travel in the performance of his regularly assigned duties throughout the district and the county of Santa Clara, for which he will receive a flat monthly car allowance of $535. The superintendent shall be eligible to participate, but is not required to participate at his own expense in the insurance plans, medical, dental, and vision made available by the board to district employees pursuant of section 22119.2B and 3 of the Educational Code and section 125 of the Internal Revenue Code. The superintendent shall receive a fully paid term life insurance program with a benefit amount of $135,000. And the district shall pay the annual due or fees for a total of 2 associations, state or national, to which the superintendent belongs for purposes related to his duties as superintendent and to the Sunnyvale Rotary Club. It is recommended that, and Nora's recommendation is to read this, which we did. And now, the item L will be the board, will be the approval of the superintendent employment contract and salary schedule, and the board hereby employs the superintendent for a period of 3 years, commencing on the first year of July 2023 and terminated on the 30th day of June 2026. The total annual salary for the superintendent for fiscal year of 2023-24 is as described in section 2A of the contract. Right now is $374,458 with 78 cents, and the employment contract and salary schedule for the superintendent is attached, and we already read as summary. If there is any member of the public who would like to speak about these 2 items, please raise your hand now. Is there anyone online? Seeing none, then board, do we have a motion to approve this item?
I move approval of the contract and salary schedule for the superintendent as presented.
And I will second.
Okay. Do we have any comments, questions, suggestions about these 2 items? Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and with this, please, everybody who is, who wants to approve this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we already passed. And we approve item, well, everything in 9 is already approved. Thank you. And now we move to the consent agenda
Can I
items.
just real quick, like, do a more sincere thank you, like, all of us, right? I hope you guys know that we push you guys, but we very much value and appreciate all 4 of you guys, like, sincerely, we really do, so thank you.
That means a lot.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
There should be a small party now. We should break for a reception.
Yeah, I know.
The party will be ended so they can go home to
Right.
I needed you to give that to me earlier. I was trying to get your attention, actually.
Okay, yeah, and congratulations. Well, now in item 10 of the agenda of the consent, is the consent agenda items for tonight, and any item on the consent agenda is subject to review and discussion prior to being approved by the board if necessary. Any item may be removed for separate action. The public may address the board regarding any item in this consent agenda, which is 10, if there is any member of the public who wants to speak or who has any comment related to this, please speak now. Okay, with that, board, do we have anyone wants to separate any item in this consent agenda, or you want to move to approve it as it is?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, Second, I suppose is Bridget.
Sure, I'll second.
Okay, any comments, questions? Okay, with that, please, everybody who wants to approve this agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and with that, we approve the item 10, the consent agenda for tonight. Next item will be information agenda. And we have Williams Uniform Complaint Settlement Quarterly Report by Jeremy.
There's no,
Bishar.
you just, they don't say anything, you just say what the information item.
Okay, and then we just name all of them?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we also have an administrative regulation 1325, advertising and promotion. And the exhibit 1325, advertising and promotion. So do we have any one from the public who wants to speak about this item? We don't comment on this, and we don't approve it either, so we move to 12. Future meetings will be in August 10. I will be online because I will be traveling. But we'll be here.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so for that meeting, is everyone else here? Isabel's traveling?
I'm here.
Yeah, we need at least a majority of the board
In person,
In person or just within the district
in
boundaries?
the district boundaries, I think.
Okay,
I think I'm here. I just.
okay. So we're gonna have for sure 3 people in the boundaries. Hopefully more. And with that, see you have a great summer and come full of energy and enthusiasm to nail it this year. And with that, we close the meeting, and actually was a very reasonable time. It's 9:07.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Thank you,
interpreters. Happy
interpreters. Have a great summer and see